transformation realm, he was at least an 8th-rank martial emperor. Such strength was simply beyond Leng Wudao's handling. Only fighting together could they defeat that Chu Yunchang. But now with David and Yu Buchuan present, people like Leng Wudao had no advantage at all. Originally, David had been in a situation where he was sure to die, but now it had become like this again, which made Leng Wudao almost die of anger. He wondered why it was so hard to kill David. "Old Chu, don't worry about my affairs. Let me have a bout with Leng Wudao today," David said to Chu Yunchang. "Mr. Chen, with your current strength, I'm afraid you're no match for that cold-hearted bastard. Let me destroy them." Chu Yunchang feared David was no match for that cold-hearted bastard at all. "Don't worry. Since I dare say this, I have absolute certainty," David said with a faint smile. Seeing David's confidence, Chu Yunchang nodded, then stepped aside. If David wasn't that indifferent opponent, it would be the same when he saved David. "Leng Wudao, I'll give you a chance to fight me alone. If I'm not your opponent, you can kill me anytime," David said to Leng Wudao provocatively. "David, you're too arrogant. Let's agree, if you're not my opponent, you must never let the old monster help." Leng Wudao also feared Chu Yunchang's attack. "Of course. If my skills are inferior, even if I die by your hands, I'll have no complaints," David said with a flat smile. "Alright, come on," Leng Wudao narrowed his eyes slightly. The energy in his body seemed to boil, then countless flying swords began surrounding his body, each flying sword with monstrous power. Flying sword formation. Why did Leng Wudao use his ultimate move as soon as he made a move? Yu Buchuan said in surprise after seeing the sword formation around Leng Wudao. This Leng Wudao seemed to want to kill David with one move, leaving Chu Yunchang no chance to save him. Seeing this, Chu Yunchang frowned slightly, then looked at the hidden world people behind Leng Wudao and said, "Mr. Chen is fighting Leng Wudao. If any of you dare help Leng Wudao, I'll turn him to mincemeat." Chu Yunchang feared when David fought Leng Wudao, there'd be tricks again. Chu Yunchang's intimidation made everyone from the hidden world retreat one after another. At this moment, no one wanted to help Leng Wudao. "Go to hell." Leng Wudao made his move. Countless flying swords rushed toward David. David took out the dragon-slaying sword, covered his whole body with the indestructible golden body, then fought Leng Wudao. David didn't use star power, nor did he take out the God King Bao, these were his last trump cards. Leng Wudao originally wanted to kill David with one move, but only after he attacked did he realize David's strength was much stronger than he'd imagined. For a time, the two's sword lights flickered, the void trembled, and explosions continuously resounded in the valley. Everyone watched the battle between the two in surprise. They hadn't expected David to be able to fight Leng Wudao, and there was no crushing victory for Leng Wudao. At this moment, Leng Wudao also began feeling anxious. If he couldn't kill David instantly like this, and continued fighting, those hidden world people watching might slowly stop heeding his words. Chapter 24:01. Chu Yunchang watched nervously. If David were in danger, he'd strike immediately. "David, your strength is indeed strong, beyond my expectation. But you're strong, you must die today." Leng Wudao erupted. Countless flying swords began merging, finally becoming one giant golden sword that slashed down toward David. The billowing sword light directly filled the entire valley. "Mr. Chen." Seeing this, Chu Yunchang knew David was in danger and wanted to rescue him. "Don't move." David instantly stopped Chu Yunchang. He was going to face Leng Wudao's strike head-on. He wanted to kill Leng Wudao in front of all the hidden world people. Only this way would those people fear him in their hearts. Chu Yunchang didn't dare go against David's intention. But seeing the golden giant sword getting closer to David, Chu Yunchang's heart leaped to his throat. But David remained motionless. The Tao pattern power in his body began covering his whole body. David wanted to test the power of this Tao pattern. "Why isn't Mr. Chen dodging?" Lu Rui asked, very puzzled. No one knew why David didn't dodge. Boom! The giant sword cut down, stirring up bursts of sand and stones. David's figure also vanished under the giant sword. The smoke and dust dispersed, and David was no longer there. "Where is Mr. Chen?" Lu Xing asked in confusion. The others were also full of confusion. They didn't understand why David had disappeared. Even if he died, there should be a corpse. Ha ha ha. The power of my sword is enough to turn any object into powder. Now David is gone, even the corpse is gone, turned into powder. Leng Wudao laughed wildly. In his view, his sword was enough to turn David into powder. David remaining motionless, waiting for his strike, that was courting death. Just when everyone was confused, a figure appeared over 100 meters away. "Mr. Chen." Lu Rui hurriedly called out upon seeing David. Everyone looked at David and found he was standing not far away, unscathed. Seeing David was fine, Chu Yunchang felt relieved. But that Leng Wudao was somewhat dazed. He couldn't believe his sword hadn't even injured David. "It's impossible, impossible." Leng Wudao couldn't believe what was before him. David looked at Leng Wudao, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and now held a bow and arrow in his hand. Immediately afterward, David grabbed the bowstring with his right hand, then slowly drew it. As the bowstring was drawn, everyone could only feel countless auras around them constantly gathering toward the bow and arrow in David's hand. Soon, a golden arrow slowly appeared. The arrow was directly aimed at Leng Wudao. Even from 100 meters away, Leng Wudao could feel the terrifying aura brought by the God King bow in David's hand. "Mr. Chen, what exactly is the bow and arrow in your hand? What a terrifying aura!" Yu Buchuan said, shocked. Chu Yunchang shook his head. He'd never seen such a weapon. Even he, an 8th-rank martial emperor, felt fear facing the pressure brought by the God King bow. Swish! David released, and the golden arrow shot toward Leng Wudao like a shooting star. Seeing this, Leng Wudao hurriedly formed a barrier before him. Countless energies burst from Leng Wudao's body. The golden arrow arrived before Leng Wudao and effortlessly broke down his barrier. The arrow pierced through Leng Wudao's body in an instant, then immediately vanished. Leng Wudao was shocked. But when he looked down, he found no scars on his body and didn't even feel any pain. "Ha ha ha, this bluffing thing can't hurt me at all." Leng Wudao laughed loudly. The others were also full of bewilderment, not understanding why David's seemingly terrifying arrow just now hadn't caused any harm to Leng Wudao. Chapter 2402. David sneered and walked forward slowly. Just after David took a few steps, Leng Wudao suddenly laughed. Immediately after a loud explosion, Leng Wudao's body was blown to pieces. Flesh and blood splattered, making everyone look stupid. You must know Leng Wudao was one of the best masters in the hidden world. The strength of a 6th-rank martial emperor was no joke, otherwise, these people wouldn't listen to him. But now, Leng Wudao was shot dead by David with one arrow, without even struggling. David looked at the God King bow in his hand, beyond excited. It seemed the God King bow's power was greater than he'd imagined. Now that David had the God King bow, and the dragon pattern bell, he feared no one. "Mr. Chen, your magical bow is too powerful," Lu Xing said enviously. "It's called the God King bow. Don't talk about Leng Wudao, even if these hidden world bastards attack together, I could easily kill them with the God King bow," David said flatly. Hearing David's words, everyone in the hidden world turned extremely pale. But no one dared say anything. Now that Leng Wudao was dead, David's strength was obvious. Who'd dare be dissatisfied with David? Besides, Chu Yunchang was beside David. If Chu Yunchang and David joined forces, they probably wouldn't withstand 3 moves and would all die here. "Mr. Chen, you're only in the 6th-rank martial god realm, yet you killed Leng Wudao directly. It's truly unbelievable." Chu Yunchang hadn't expected David to be so powerful when fighting above his level. 6th-rank martial god? David smiled slightly, then erupted all his Dao pattern power. Immediately afterward, the entire valley was instantly filled with an invisible pressure. Everyone found the realm aura on David's body was growing rapidly, as if riding a rocket. 7th-rank martial god. 8th-rank martial god. Peak martial god. Soon, with the explosive growth of David's realm, the pressure in the valley grew heavier and heavier. In the end, they all fell to the ground under this aura's pressure. Even Chu Yunchang, an 8th-rank martial emperor, could only look at David in horror at this moment, unable to rise because pressed to the ground. He didn't know how long it took, but the terrifying pressure slowly dissipated. Everyone took a breath and slowly got up. Some Hidden World sect disciples, because their strength was too low, were directly oppressed by the aura David emitted, their internal organs burst and died. Even Tong Haiyang, Bao Yukuan, and the other sect masters were all out of breath, their bodies seriously injured. And at this moment, David seemed completely reborn, his whole skin felt crystal clear. Even if David didn't use his indestructible golden body now, a master like Chu Yunchang couldn't hurt him at all. Mr. Chen, have you reached the transformation realm? Chu Yunchang asked in disbelief. David didn't speak but clenched his fist tightly, then swung it vigorously. A ray of light shot into the sky. Immediately after, several dazzling rays of light erupted, accompanied by a rumbling sound. David's punch actually pierced directly through the valley, creating a passage from the bottom of the abyss to the secret realm's surface. Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at David was like looking at a monster. But David shook his head slightly. Still a bit off. But even if a transformation realm master came, I wouldn't be afraid at all. David was only at the peak of martial emperor now and hadn't reached the transformation realm. However, with the two divine weapons, the God King Bao and Dragon Pattern Bell, even if a transformation realm master came, David had absolute confidence. This Dao pattern power is truly a good thing. That Enimo bastard really didn't lie to me. David was very grateful to that Enimo in his heart. Chapter 2403. Mr. Chen, spare our lives, spare our lives. At this moment, Tong Haiyang fell to his knees with a plop, begging David for mercy. Now that David's strength surpassed Chu Yunchang's, probably none of them would survive. You must know they'd pursued and tried to kill David all along. David wouldn't let them off easily. Mr. Chen, please forgive us. It was all that cold-hearted bastard's idea. Everyone knelt on the ground. Even Yao Qing and Bao Yukuan lowered their heads, begging for David's forgiveness. David looked at the Hidden World people before him but never considered killing them all. But Yao Qing and Bao Yukuan definitely couldn't stay. These two bastards were too despicable. Yao Qing had led people and almost wiped out the entire Pure Yang sect. Yu Buchuan, upon seeing Yao Qing, wished he could skin him alive. How could he let him go? And Bao Yukuan had followed Yao Qing into the same nest. He'd been lecherous and almost assaulted Lu Rui. If Chu Yunchang hadn't sensed it in time, Lu Rui's innocence would have been taken by that old bastard Bao Yukuan. Get up. I don't want to kill you. I'll let you go. David said slowly. When everyone heard this, they were overjoyed and thanked him again and again. Tong Haiyang flatteringly said, "Thank you for not killing us, Mr. Chen. We are willing to follow Mr. Chen and serve as dogs or horses. I don't have to kill you, but you must do one thing for me." David said. "Mr. Chen, please tell us. As long as we can do it, don't say one thing, even 10 things, we won't hesitate." Tong Haiyang said hastily. "Destroy the Medicine sect and the Burning Heavens sect, kill Yao Qing and Bao Yukuan, and I can let the rest go." David stated his condition. When Tong Haiyang heard this, he immediately nodded and said, "Mr. Chen, don't worry. These two bastards are no good. Let's do it now." When Bao Yukuan and Yao Qing heard this, their legs trembled in fright. They hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. "Mr. Chen, please let us go, let us go." But David's face remained cold and expressionless. Seeing this, Tong Haiyang said to everyone in the Hidden World, "Let's join forces and kill these two bastards. Mr. Chen will forgive us. Let's do it." After speaking, Tong Haiyang was the first to attack Yao Qing and Bao Yukuan. Seeing this, the others also rushed up one after another. At this moment, they were all doing their utmost. No one dared let Yao Qing and Bao Yukuan go. Seeing this, Bao Yuquan and Yao Qing could only lead their disciples to desperately resist. David led Yu Buchuan and Chu Yunchang, quietly watching them fight. Under the crowd siege, the Medicine sect and Burning Heaven sect were soon wiped out, and Yao Qing and Bao Yuquan were also chopped into mincemeat. Yao Qing and Bao Yuquan were dead. The Pure Yang sect's revenge was considered avenged. Sect Master Yu, from now on, the entire hidden world and this secret realm will be under Sect Master Yu's care. I'll let old Chu stay and help you. I hope Sect Master Yu revives the Pure Yang sect. David looked at Yu Buchuan and said. With Chu Yunchang helping Yu Buchuan, David knew other hidden world people would never dare have other ideas. Mr. Chen, where are you going? There are plenty of resources here, don't you want to cultivate here for a while? Yu Buchuan saw David was about to leave and asked. I have other things to deal with, I can't stay here long. We'll see each other by fate. David said with a slight smile. Alright. If Mr. Chen has any need of me, just ask. Yu Buchuan said. David nodded. After explaining a few words to Chu Yunchang, his body leaped up and transformed into a streak of light, instantly rushing straight from the valley to the secret realm's surface. Then, leaving the secret realm, David went directly to the capital. He was going to see how Sonia and the others were trapped in the Taoist sect secret realm. Chapter 2404. Kyoto. After David returned to the capital, he felt a burst of emotion in his heart. He'd been away a long time. Originally, David planned to go directly to the Taoist sect secret realm to see how Sonia and the others were doing. But just as he arrived in the capital, Gu Jiai took him to the Gu family. When David came to the Gu family, he was stunned. He saw Gu Sangsheng and Gu Yuhan leading a group of Gu family disciples at Gu Fuhai's villa. You must know these secret realm disciples never left the secret realm unless something urgent happened. Old Gu, how did you leave the secret realm? What happened? David asked, full of shock. Gu Sangsheng bringing these Gu family children out of the secret realm and suffering heavenly suppression greatly affected their strength. Seeing David, Gu Sangsheng suddenly burst into tears. Mr. Chen, the Gu family land is gone. What happened? David frowned. It's Jin Lifu from Zhanyue Pavilion, he suddenly launched an attack on us. Not only our Gu family land, but Tianlula has few people left either. And that Jin Lifu is actually the purple-robed emissary of the Demon Heart sect. He joined the Demon Heart sect many years ago. Gu Sangsheng said. Hearing this, David's head buzzed. He hadn't expected the Demon Heart sect's power to penetrate the 8 great secret realms. And this Jin Lifu was also a purple-robed emissary? Is it only the Fire Gate secret realm? What about the other secret realms? David asked hastily. Now David was most worried about his mother. His mother was still in Zixia Mansion in the Thunder Gate secret realm. If the Thunder Gate secret realm was also in chaos, or if Han Fusheng was also the Demon Heart sect's purple-robed emissary, it would be troublesome. I'm not very clear about that. But Jin Lifu definitely isn't the only one who colluded with the Demon Heart sect in these 8 secret realms. Perhaps there are Demon Heart sect people in other secret realms. For the Demon Heart sect to dispatch purple-robed emissaries, their layout started years ago. Gu Sangsheng said. David fell into silence. If this were the case, it would be difficult for him to destroy the Demon Heart sect. Although David's strength had increased a lot now, he had too few people around him. If there were Demon Heart sect people in the 8 secret realms, all controlled by the Demon Heart sect, then it would be tough. Old Gu, how many children does the Gu family have left? David wanted to know how many people he had under his command. Gu Sangsheng said with a lonely expression, only these 10 or so people escaped. There are also a dozen or so people who escaped from Tianlula. But it's impossible for us to return to the Fire Gate secret realm. David pondered for a moment, feeling a headache. Although there were many people in his Dragon Gate, these secular world people's strength was too low. How could they possibly fight people from the secret realms? David, if necessary, we can help you. At that moment, Ji Rushue came with many girls. With Mr. Shi's guidance, their strength had long been different from before and could definitely help David. You? David looked at Ji Ruxue and the others with some doubt. Sisters, it seems we have to show our hand, don't let David underestimate us. After speaking, Ji Ruxue led all the girls to show David a little something. When David saw Ji Ruxue and the others' strength, he was already shocked speechless. But after hearing Mr. Shi had taught them, David understood. Mr. Shi was the only one David couldn't see through at all. So far, he didn't know what Mr. Shi's realm was. Anyway, every time he felt his strength improved and his heart swelled, he'd be ruthlessly suppressed by Mr. Shi. Chapter 2405. Old Gu, stay here for now. As for taking back the Fire Gate's secret realm, we'll discuss it later. I'll go to the Thunder Gate's secret realm. David decided to first go to Zixia Mansion in the Thunder Gate's secret realm and find his mother. Only when his mother was safe could David do other things with peace of mind. Mr. Chen, you're going to the Thunder Gate's secret realm. Do you know where the entrance to the Thunder Gate's secret realm and the secular world's teleportation array are? Gu Zongsheng asked David. David shook his head. How could he know? In that case, we can only teleport to the Thunder Gate's secret realm from the Fire Gate's secret realm's teleportation array. Let Yuhan go with you. Although the Fire Gate's secret realm is completely occupied by Zhanyue Pavilion, it's impossible for them to have so many people guarding each teleportation array. Gu Zongsheng said. David thought for a while. He had no other choice, so he nodded and took Gu Yuhan and Ji Ruxue and the other girls to the Fire Gate's secret realm. Passing through the Fire Gate's secret realm, the group was teleported to the snowy Thunder Gate's secret realm. It was the first time Ji Ruxue and the others entered a secret realm, so they were all very excited. It was also David's first time in the Thunder Gate's secret realm, so he didn't even know where Zixia Mansion was. David could only disperse his consciousness, searching for all human auras. As long as he could encounter people, he could find out Zixia Mansion's location. But as David walked and explored with everyone, he suddenly froze. Under his spiritual consciousness cover, he seemed to sense a familiar aura. David quickly ran toward that aura while the others followed closely. Soon, everyone came to a hot spring. Looking at the hot spring before them, feeling the atmosphere around it, David was so familiar. When he'd used the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map to cultivate, he'd stayed at this hot spring more than once. What the hell is going on here? How could this place be in the Thunder Gate's secret realm? David fell into confusion. And Gu Linger looked at the hot spring before her and said with surprise, David, this place is so familiar, haven't we been here? Gu Linger had once followed Sonia to use the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers to practice and had also come here, so she also felt familiar. After David was surprised, he hurriedly took the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map from his storage ring. After opening the map, not only had the picture above changed, but the scene of the steaming hot spring under the white snow never appeared again. Could it be the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers won't be shown because I'm here? David guessed in his heart. But at that moment, Gu Yuhan, looking at the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map, said in surprise, Look, isn't this the place in our Fire Gate's secret realm? The picture clearly displayed a desert with raging flames. Gu Yuhan recognized this place at a glance. It was in the Fire Gate's secret realm. David glanced at Gu Yuhan and asked, Are you sure? Of course, I've been to this place. Gu Yuhan nodded confidently. Seeing this, David seemed to have guessed something, so he took Gu Yuhan's hand and said, Come with me and see if it's the Fire Gate's secret realm. After speaking, the two's consciousness entered the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map. Then a flash of light before their eyes, and they appeared in that desert. Gu Yuhan looked around and said for certain, That's right, this is the Fire Gate's secret realm. If you walk more than 100 kilometers from here, you should arrive at our Gu family's land. Why don't we go have a look? David shook his head and said, No need to look anymore. I know what the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map is for. This is the teleportation map of the 8 great secret realms. With this map, you can teleport to any of the 8 great secret realms and won't be bound by the teleportation array rules. David finally figured it out. No wonder the area inside the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map was full of spiritual energy, very suitable for cultivation. It turned out the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map was a teleportation array that could directly teleport to any secret realm. Keep in mind the spiritual energy in secret realms was, of course, abundant. Chapter 2406. David followed Guyuhan back to the Thunder Gate secret realm. After knowing the function of the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map, David was very excited. Now he didn't have to worry about finding teleportation entrances to other secret realms, nor did he have to abide by the 8 great secret realms teleportation rules. Otherwise, after David and the others teleported from the Fire Gate secret realm to this Thunder Gate secret realm, they'd have to wait 3 days before they could teleport again. Whether 3 days were long or short, who knew what would happen? Let's go, find Zixia Mansion's location as soon as possible. David put away the 90,000-mile mountains and rivers map and led the girls to continue searching for Zixia Mansion's location. But not long after leaving, David detected someone's aura with his divine sense. Because he didn't know who it was, David could only hide with Ji Rushue and the others. Soon, 2 figures slowly appeared before David and the others. Sister Choju, I'm not leaving. I want to go back and save my dad. If I leave like this, my dad will definitely be in danger. Han Qinger struggled desperately, but Choju held Han Qinger tightly and kept moving forward. Miss, we finally escaped. If you run back, it'll be even more troublesome for the Mansion Master. If Lu Buwei uses you to threaten the Mansion Master, what will the Mansion Master do? Choju persuaded Han Qinger. But I can't just leave like this. If I'm not there, Lu Buwei will definitely take his anger out on my parents. At worst, I'll marry that Lu Chang, as long as they let my parents go. Han Qinger was still unwilling to leave. Miss, don't be foolish. Even if you marry Lu Chang, they won't let the Mansion Master and his wife go. Crescent Moon Castle has been hidden for so many years. Now that they've attacked our Zixia Mansion, they'll never stop. Choju said while pulling Han Qinger forward. Why did it become like this? Han Qinger cried. She didn't understand why the entire secret realm had changed so suddenly. At that moment, David stood up. Seeing someone, Choju's expression changed drastically, and she hurriedly stood before Han Qinger. However, when she saw it was David, Han Qinger was stunned for a moment, then rushed toward David with excitement on her face. Han Qinger threw herself into David's arms and burst into tears. David, how did you get here? Did you hear about what happened to our family and come to save me? Han Qinger asked in David's arms. Seeing this scene, Ji Rushue and the others on the side looked at each other and smiled. They knew they were going to have another sister. What's going on? Please explain clearly. David comforted Han Qinger softly. Han Qinger wiped away her tears, then told David what had happened at Zixia Mansion. It turned out Han Fusheng hadn't cared about Crescent Moon Castle continuously encroaching on other small sect families in the Thunder Gate secret realm and didn't think anything was wrong. But just today, Crescent Moon Castle suddenly led people to surround Zixia Mansion, intending to annex it and have Han Qinger marry Lu Chang. After Han Fusheng saw through Lu Buwei and his son's true faces, he took the opportunity to let Choju escape with Han Qinger, while Han Fusheng faced Lu Buwei and his son alone. After David heard this, he immediately thought of the Fire Gate secret realm scene, then asked, then why did Crescent Moon Castle besiege your Zixia Mansion? Is Lu Buwei the purple-robed emissary? What purple-robed emissary? Han Qinger looked blankly at David. She didn't know what a purple-robed emissary was. David looked at Choju, who also shook her head. She didn't know either. Seeing the two didn't know, David said, take me to Zixia Mansion, hurry. Since Lu Buwei had besieged Zixia Mansion, his mother might be in danger. Chapter 2407. Zixia Mansion. Lu Buwei and his son were sitting in the hall with Han Fusheng and his wife. Outside, hundreds of Crescent Moon Castle disciples surrounded the entire Zixia Mansion. At this time, Lu Buwei wore a purple robe, and the aura on his body kept rising, clearly overwhelming Han Fusheng. Han Fusheng, why hasn't your daughter come out? As long as your daughter marries my son, we'll be a family. Then you follow me, and when spiritual energy revives, we'll ascend to the heavenly human realm." "How wonderful!" Lu Buwei said to Han Fusheng. Han Fusheng's face was gloomy and cold, and he said slightly sarcastically, "Lu Buwei, you're also a castle master, how could you be willing to become the Demon Heart sect's dog?" "Why?" "Ha ha ha," Lu Buwei laughed loudly, somewhat unbothered that Han Fusheng called him a dog. "Let me tell you, I joined the Demon Heart sect decades ago because I knew if we didn't join, we'd be trapped in this secret realm forever, with no possibility of ascending to the heavenly human realm. We cultivate our entire lives, isn't it, to become gods and immortals? But if spiritual energy doesn't revive, and we only rely on this small secret realm, when will we become immortals? But it's different now. Spiritual energy is about to revive. Then, the whole world will be ours. So what's difficult about becoming gods and immortals?" Lu Buwei persuaded Han Fusheng. Han Fusheng gripped the seat tightly with both hands. Hearing Lu Buwei's words, he was going to die of anger. So this bastard had joined the Demon Heart sect decades ago, and he'd even called Lu Buwei brother. Han Fusheng gritted his teeth, about to attack Lu Buwei. Now that Han Qing'er had already fled, he had no scruples. But Linglong at his side gently pulled Han Fusheng, then said to Lu Buwei with a smile, "Brother Lu, could we do this? Tomorrow, we'll dress Qing'er beautifully and send her to your Crescent Moon Castle. As for our Zixia mansion joining you, I'm trying to persuade Fusheng today. You know he's stubborn. Give us a day." Lu Buwei looked at Linglong's noble posture, his eyes bursting with streaks of lewdness. "Since my sister-in-law has spoken, I'll give you 1 day. But don't try to escape because this Thunder Gate's secret realm is mine. If you're still stubborn tomorrow, then I can only start killing. But sister-in-law, don't worry, I won't kill you. With your charming figure, I've long wanted a taste." Lu Buwei didn't care about Han Fusheng's presence and openly teased Linglong. Linglong could only laugh along, she knew she couldn't anger Lu Buwei at this time. And Han Fusheng's face turned red with rage, wishing he could swallow Lu Buwei. Lu Buwei took his people away, but Han Fusheng shouted loudly, "What are you begging him for? What's the difference between fighting today and tomorrow? Do you really want to follow Lu Buwei?" Slap! Linglong instantly slapped Han Fusheng across the face. Han Fusheng instantly didn't dare speak. This guy was henpecked, he was out of breath just now, yet dared speak to Linglong like that. Now Qing'er and the others definitely haven't gone far. If we fall out with Lu Buwei now, do you think Qing'er can escape the secret realm? Linglong asked Han Fusheng angrily. Han Fusheng lowered his head and didn't dare speak. He knew his wife was delaying time to let Han Qing'er escape the secret realm. The hall fell into silence, and the entire Zixia mansion fell into panic. But at that moment, Han Qing'er and Qiuju brought David and the others to Zixia mansion. Chapter 2408. Dad, Mom. Seeing her parents were fine, Han Qing'er rushed forward happily. When Han Fusheng saw Han Qing'er had returned, he said angrily, "Qiuju took you away, why did you come back?" "I'm fine." "Quick, run quickly." Linglong also said to Han Qing'er. "Dad, Mom, I brought David." After Han Qing'er finished speaking, David walked in with Ji Ruxue and the others. When Han Fusheng saw David, he was taken aback, wondering why David came to the Thunder Gate's secret realm. "David, what are you doing in our Thunder Gate's secret realm?" Han Fusheng asked in confusion. "I'm here to find my mother," David said directly. David's words stunned Han Qing'er. She'd thought David came to find her. Even Han Fusheng was stupefied, he didn't understand why David would come to the Thunder Gate's secret realm to find his mother. "Looking for your mother? Who is your mother?" Han Fusheng asked. "My mother's name is Long Ruotong. She should be in Zixia Mansion, right?" David said. Boom! Hearing David's words, Han Fusheng was instantly thunderstruck, standing there dumbfounded. He'd never thought Long Ruotong would be David's mother. Han Qing'er was puzzled and said, there doesn't seem to be anyone named Long Ruotong in Zixia Mansion, right? Han Qing'er didn't know, but An Lingrong did. She knew Han Fusheng had wanted to marry a woman before, a young lady from the Long family named Long Ruotong. An Lingrong stared intently at Han Fusheng. At this moment, Han Fusheng's mind was completely blank. After a long time, Han Fusheng came to his senses and said in disbelief, "I never expected you'd be Long Ruotong's son. I truly didn't expect. Where is my mother locked up by you?" David's expression wasn't very good. He asked Han Fusheng coldly. David didn't know how his mother had fared in Zixia Mansion, so he was always hostile toward Han Fusheng. Han Fusheng glanced at his wife. Seeing her cold eyes, Han Fusheng trembled with fright. But matters had come to this point. David was here, and Zixia Mansion also faced destruction. He no longer had the ability to protect Long Ruotong. So he gritted his teeth and said, "Come with me." After speaking, Han Fusheng took David outside toward where Long Ruotong was. At this moment, David was very excited because he'd soon see his birth mother. Ever since he knew his mother's identity, David had dreamed of his mother more than once and imagined the scene when he'd see her. But now, he'd soon see his mother. David's body trembled slightly from excitement. Ji Rushua stepped forward, gently held David's hand, and didn't speak. She just wanted to soothe David's excited mood. An Lingrong and Han Qing'er also followed. Han Fusheng led everyone out of Zixia Mansion, then headed southwest. As the group got farther from Zixia Mansion, a snow mountain slowly appeared. Soon, everyone came to a cave. This cave was clearly hand-dug. An area before the cave entrance had been artificially cleared, and in one spot was a small hot spring, steaming hot. Han Fusheng stopped, looked at David, and said, "Your mother is inside." After speaking, Han Fusheng knelt before An Lingrong. "Wife, I didn't do anything. Long Ruotong was also sent by the Long family back then. I settled her here. I've never been here before." Han Fusheng knelt before his wife in public, showing how afraid he was of her. But David wasn't in the mood to watch. Trembling slightly, he walked toward the cave step by step. Chapter 2409. Standing at the cave entrance, David didn't dare open the door to go in for a long time. He'd always thought about his mother, but when the time came to see her, David didn't know how to face her. Just as David stood before the door and wanted to push it open, the cave door opened from inside. A woman in white emerged. David and the woman looked at each other. Although the two had never met before, at this moment, the feeling of blood connection between mother and child instantly rose in both their hearts. "Child?" Long Ruotong looked at David and called softly. "Mom!" David cried out, tears streaming down his face, and knelt before Long Ruotong with a plop. Long Ruotong also burst into tears instantly and hugged David tightly. Mother and son wept. Seeing this scene, Ji Rushua and the others also burst into tears. An Lingrong's expression was also moved. She knew that as a mother, she missed her child. Looking at Han Fusheng before her, An Lingrong kicked him hard. "This is all your fault." In An Lingrong's view, if Han Fusheng hadn't locked Long Ruotong in this Thundergate secret realm, perhaps David would have met his mother long ago. Han Qing'er also glared angrily at her father. She hadn't expected her father to be such a person. Han Fusheng wanted to explain, but now he couldn't. After David and Long Ruotong cried for a while, Long Ruotong hurriedly called everyone into the cave. The cave's interior was as warm as spring and very luxuriously decorated. It seemed Long Ruotong was doing well here. However, David didn't intend to let Han Fusheng off. After all, his mother had been imprisoned here so long. If not for Han Fusheng, he'd have met his mother long ago. "Mom, you've suffered. I've killed Long Jinghua and his son. I won't let anyone bully you again," David said, looking coldly at Han Fusheng. "David, don't misunderstand. I didn't do anything to your mother. The reason I left your mother here was also for her safety." Han Fusheng felt the coldness in David's eyes and quickly explained. "That's right, son. Palace Master Han truly didn't do anything to me. I've been doing pretty well here." Long Ruodong also said to David. After hearing Long Ruodong's words, the coldness in David's eyes gradually faded. Mom, I'm here to take you out of here, back to Kyoto, back to the capital, so you can enjoy life. David said. Alright, Mom will go with you. Long Ruodong nodded, then looked at Ji Rushue and the others and asked David, who are these girls? David didn't know how to introduce Ji Rushue and the others. Auntie, we're David's girlfriends. When you return to the capital, you can enjoy your life with peace of mind. We'll take care of you. Ji Rushue stepped forward slowly and said to Long Ruodong generously. All of you. Long Ruodong was a little shocked. But soon, Long Ruodong's shock turned to joy, and she said with a smile, okay, that's great. With so many girlfriends, do I have many grandchildren now? David didn't know how to answer his mother. If he said he didn't have grandchildren, would his mother be disappointed? At that moment, Ji Rushue hurriedly rescued David and said, Auntie, David's been thinking about you all this time. He said if he couldn't rescue you, he wouldn't have sex with us, so we're still virgins. Long Ruodong glanced at David and said, silly boy, don't you know what's more important? If you couldn't rescue me in 10 years, wouldn't you want children for 10 years? Let's go. Once we get back to Kyoto, you should hurry and share a room. With so many people, I guess there'll be many grandchildren. Chapter 24:10. When Ji Rushue and the others heard this, their faces blushed. And Long Ruodong couldn't wait to leave here and return to the capital. Just as David was about to leave with Long Ruodong, Han Fusheng stopped David. Originally, Han Fusheng thought David was good and wanted to entrust Han Qinger to him. But now David had so many women around him. But if Han Qinger didn't go with David, then when Lu Buwei and his son came tomorrow, none of their family would escape. In the end, Han Fusheng could only say to David, David, I hope you can take Qinger with you. If she stays, she'll definitely die. Han Fusheng knew his daughter's temperament. Han Qinger would never agree to marry Lu Chang. When the time came, Lu Buwei and his son would kill them. Dad, I'm not leaving. I want to stay with you. Han Qinger shook her head. She liked David, but she hadn't expected David to have so many women around him. Han Qinger couldn't accept it for a while. After all, she was also the young lady of Zixiao Mansion. Han Qinger felt somewhat conflicted about sharing a man with so many women. But Han Qinger didn't know which of these women around David wasn't a daughter before. Qinger, let David take you away. It's meaningless for you to stay. And Lingrong also persuaded Han Qinger. Han Qinger cried bitterly, hugging her mother tightly. David, what's going on? Long Ruodong asked upon seeing this. David told Long Ruodong about the Thundergate's secret realm situation. Long Ruodong frowned slightly. David, if you have a way, can you help Palace Master Han? Long Ruodong said to David. David hadn't originally intended to save Zixiao Mansion. After all, in David's understanding, his mother had been imprisoned by Han Fusheng. But now, seeing his mother was doing well and she offered to help Han Fusheng, David nodded. David, you'd better go, take my daughter with you, and treat her well. I'll be very grateful. That Lu Buwei is stronger than me, and he's annexed the entire Thundergate secret realm. He has thousands of disciples. Even if you stay and help, my Zixiao Mansion is no match for Crescent Moon Castle. Han Fusheng refused to let David stay and help because he knew David's strength. David and the others were just these few people. Even if they stayed and helped, it'd be a drop in the bucket. Master Han, I naturally have a way to deal with that Lu Buwei. As for the thousands of Crescent Moon Castle disciples, I'll figure something out. David had the God King Bao in hand, so he naturally wasn't afraid of Lu Buwei. He was trying to find another way. What else can we do? Lu Buwei and his son are coming tomorrow, there's no time. Han Fusheng shook his head resignedly. He no longer had any fighting spirit and just hoped his daughter could live. There must be a way. David looked firm, then said to Ji Rushue, Rushue, Han, you stay here and take care of my mother. I'll find a way. Ji Rushue and the others nodded. On the other hand, Long Ruodong said, David, if you have no choice, don't try to be brave. Safety first. Mom, don't worry. Even if you ask me to break the sky, I'll do it. After speaking, David walked out directly. David now had to figure out how to move so many rescuers. Although David had many people in the secular world, their strength was too low. If they came to this secret realm to fight, they'd be cannon fodder and meaningless. As for Yu Buchuan and Chu Yunchang from the hidden realm, though not weak, their numbers were too small. Even if they came, it'd be useless. Fire Phoenix? I can go to the monster beast secret realm to find Fire Phoenix, then lead an army of monsters to help. David suddenly thought of Fire Phoenix. Ever since he was injured and fell into a coma last time, and in his dream followed Fire Phoenix to have sex with her, David had also worried about Fire Phoenix. He didn't know what Fire Phoenix was doing now to save herself. Chapter 24:11. David found the teleportation array and was directly teleported to the monster beast secret realm. After sensing someone coming, the monsters in the monster secret realm began moving. The auras of monsters kept approaching David. But when these monsters approached David, they were all stunned, then roared loudly and separated to welcome David. Accompanied by the monsters' long howls, huge flying birds soared from the monster beast mountain range, then landed before David. The flying bird flapped its wings, meaning for David to sit on it. David jumped onto the bird's body, then it soared into the sky, flying directly to the top of the monster beast mountain range. Looking at the familiar small house, David jumped off the bird and rushed in. Master! Fire Phoenix's figure was still in the small house, completely naked, looking at David with a smile. Seeing Fire Phoenix safe and sound, David breathed a sigh of relief. Fire Phoenix, when I was injured and unconscious, did you save me? David asked Fire Phoenix. After all, David was in a coma then and didn't know anything, later it was just speculation. Fire Phoenix nodded. At that time, the master was injured. I had no choice but to force out my own soul, then have intercourse with the master, forming the power of dragon and phoenix to heal you. I hope the master won't blame me. I had no choice. David heard that while he was in a coma, he'd done that with Fire Phoenix. But he couldn't blame Fire Phoenix, after all, she was also trying to save him. I don't blame you. After all, you were saving me. David said. Seeing David didn't blame her, Fire Phoenix laughed, then asked, I wonder why the master came to this monster secret realm? David hurriedly explained his purpose. But upon hearing it, Fire Phoenix's expression turned somewhat ugly. What's wrong? David asked, looking at Fire Phoenix's expression. Master, Fire Phoenix is willing to go through fire and water for you. But now I can't leave this monster beast mountain range. Fire Phoenix said. Why? David asked, puzzled. At that time, to save the master, I surrendered my soul and became a mark on the master's body. So now I'm a person with an incomplete soul and can't leave here. Fire Phoenix said. Hearing this, David frowned slightly. Then what should I do? I'll return your soul to you. I have stronger power now. The master can return the soul to me, but the two of us must do this again. Fire Phoenix blushed, she didn't know how to say it. However, David instantly understood. He knew what Fire Phoenix meant. To return her soul, he had to do it with Fire Phoenix again. I understand. After speaking, David threw Fire Phoenix onto the bed without the slightest hesitation. Anyway, it wasn't the first time for the two. David also completely let go. His mother was rescued, so none of the women around him would even try to run away. In an instant, the entire small house was enveloped in golden light. A dragon and phoenix soared into the sky, then circled above the small house. Countless monsters in the monster beast mountain range swarmed from all directions, watching a dragon and phoenix flying in the sky, and worshipped together. A joyful phoenix cry came from the room. A dragon and phoenix hovered in the air for a long time. Until there was no sound in the room, the golden light gradually disappeared, and the dragon and phoenix slowly dissipated. In the room, Fire Phoenix snuggled into David's arms with a contented face, just like a docile kitten. Wait for my news. When the time comes, take your monster beasts and rush to the Thunder Gate's secret realm together. David said to Fire Phoenix. Master, don't worry. Everything is up to you, Fire Phoenix nodded. David got up and dressed, then returned to the Thunder Gate's secret realm. Chapter 24:12. David, how is it? Have you thought of a solution? Han Qinger asked anxiously upon seeing David return. If David had no solution, then their Zixia mansion might be completely ruined. Han Fusheng and his wife also looked at David nervously. No one wanted to die. If David had a way, they wouldn't have to wait for death. David looked at Han Qinger's expectant eyes, then nodded and said, "Don't worry. As long as Lu Buwei and his son dare come tomorrow, I'll make sure they can't go back." David, are you really sure? Han Fusheng asked, somewhat disbelieving. Of course. Since I've said it, I'm sure. David said confidently. Seeing David so confident, Han Fusheng also breathed a sigh of relief. Just waiting for tomorrow to come. In the evening, Han Fusheng had David stay in Zixia mansion for the night, while Long Ruotong and the others stayed in the cave. After all, they'd fight tomorrow. Although David was confident, if by accident his mother were injured, David couldn't forgive himself. So he asked Ji Ruxue and the others to protect his mother, while David himself was in Zixia mansion to deal with Lu Buwei and his son arriving tomorrow. Qinger, you're grown up. You should understand some things. Although there are many women around David, he's a rare talent. You must seize the opportunity. If David truly helps our Zixia mansion pass this trial, we should repay him. Do you understand what your mother and I mean? Han Fusheng and An Lingrong were persuading Han Qinger. They knew their daughter's temperament. After seeing David had so many women, they feared Han Qinger would resist David. Han Qinger nodded slowly. Dad, Mom, I understand what you mean. But I actually like David too. Silly girl, if you like him, then take the initiative. Tonight will be a good time. If there are other women around David, do you think it'll be your turn? You have no experience at all, you'll be at a disadvantage then. An Lingrong hurriedly said to Han Qinger. Han Qinger blushed, bit her lips, suddenly stood up, and said, I know what to do. After speaking, Han Qinger walked out of the room, while Han Fusheng and his wife looked at each other and smiled. At that time, David was lying on the bed, thinking about how to deal with Lu Buwei and his son tomorrow. The door was gently pushed open, and a woman's body fragrance came. Without looking, David knew who it was. David pretended to close his eyes. Han Qinger walked up to David naked. Looking at David, who was already asleep, Han Qinger hesitated. But in the end, she gritted her teeth, lay down beside David, and got into his bed. Han Qinger rested her head on David's chest. Only at this moment did Han Qinger feel a sense of security. And David smelled Han Qinger's body fragrance, felt that tender skin. He'd already tasted sweetness and couldn't restrain the flame in his heart anymore. He turned over and placed Han Qinger beneath him. Han Qinger panicked and was about to say something, but David directly blocked her mouth. Ah! A joyful cry came from David's room, resounding throughout Zixia mansion. When Han Fusheng and An Lingrong heard this voice, they immediately recognized it was their daughter. Both breathed a sigh of relief and looked toward David's room. They saw David's room glowing with golden light, and the entire Zixia mansion was almost shrouded in this golden light. Looking at the dazzling golden light, Han Fusheng was shocked. This David truly is unusual. It seems our choice is correct. Han Fusheng said slowly. Of course, it's not easy for me to take a fancy to a young man at first glance. An Lingrong smiled all over her face, like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looked, the more she liked him. Chapter 24:13. The next day, Lu Buwei and his son, not waiting for Han Qinger, came to Zixia mansion again. Han Fusheng, how dare you fuck with me? Even if you hand over your daughter today, it's too late. I'm going to destroy your entire Zixia mansion. Lu Buwei said angrily, feeling he'd been tricked. At this time, with David's guarantee, Han Fusheng was no longer afraid of Lu Buwei and said with a sneer, "Lu Buwei, if you want to destroy my Zixia mansion, I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Lu Buwei froze for a moment, frowning slightly. He said, "Seems you've recruited reinforcements, otherwise, you wouldn't dare speak to me with this attitude. But let me tell you, unless you join our Demon Heart sect, you won't find anyone. No one can save you." "Really? Then can I save him?" At that moment, David walked out holding Han Qinger's hand. Han Qinger's face was flushed at this time, like a red apple, and she also carried a womanly scent. Clearly, Han Qinger had transformed last night. "Qinger, you." Seeing Han Qinger come out hand in hand with David, Lu Chang was furious. "David?" Lu Buwei was slightly taken aback upon seeing David. After all, everyone had seen David's performance at the Secret Realm conference. "Han Fusheng, the reason you're arrogant isn't that you found this kid, right? With his current strength, I can easily crush him with one hand, believe it or not." Lu Buwei said nonchalantly. Although David performed brilliantly at the Secret Realm conference and his strength wasn't bad, that was among the younger generation. Compared to them, David's strength wasn't enough. But Lu Buwei didn't know the current David was no longer the David of months ago. David, at the peak of the Separation Reunion realm, with the God King Bao in hand, could easily crush Lu Buwei. Han Fusheng didn't speak but looked at David because he didn't know David's current strength, whether he could truly defeat Lu Buwei. Besides, Lu Buwei still had hundreds of disciples watching, yet David was still alone. He hadn't seen the reinforcements David had recruited. "Whether you can crush me to death with one hand, you'll have to try." David smiled coldly and said to Lu Buwei, "If you want to die, then I'll kill you first, then destroy Zixia Mansion." Lu Buwei's eyes narrowed. A cold light shot out instantly, and he was about to attack David. "Dad," Lu Chang stopped Lu Buwei, then looked angrily at Han Qinger and said, "Qinger, we're childhood sweethearts. I like you so much, can't you see? As long as you're willing to marry me now, I can persuade my dad to spare your Zixia mansion." "I don't understand, what's better about that David than me?" Lu Chang roared, as if losing his mind. "Lu Chang, give up. I'm now David's woman in life, David's ghost in death. I'm already his woman." After speaking, Han Qinger glanced affectionately at David. It seemed David had completely conquered her last night. Lu Chang was stunned, his face full of disbelief. "No, it's impossible, absolutely impossible. You're lying to me. You're definitely not that kind of casual woman. For so many years, you wouldn't even let me hold your hand, you're such a pure girl." Lu Chang didn't believe Han Qinger would do that kind of thing with David. "Lu Chang, wake up. I wouldn't let you hold hands because I don't like you. And when I meet a man I like, I'm willing to give him all of myself." Han Qinger's words deeply stimulated Lu Chang again. "Ah," Lu Chang roared like he was going crazy. "David, I'll kill you. I'll tear you into pieces." After speaking, Lu Chang erupted with all his aura and rushed at David. "Humph." David snorted coldly. Without even looking at Lu Chang, he raised his foot and kicked Lu Chang away. Chapter 24:14. Lu Chang's body flew straight out like a kite with a broken string, then fell heavily to the ground. "Son!" Lu Buwei was shocked and hurriedly chased out. Han Fusheng looked at David in shock. He hadn't expected David to be so strong. Although Lu Chang wasn't the strongest among the younger generation, he wasn't weak either. David didn't even look at him and kicked him away, showing how terrifying David's strength already was. And Han Qinger looked at David with fascination at the moment. She found David so handsome now. Son. Ah! I'll kill you all." Outside, Lu Buwei's furious roar sounded. The terrifying aura made surrounding houses crumble. Han Fusheng and the others hurried out of the room and saw Lu Chang bleeding from all 7 orifices, eyes wide open. He'd already lost his breath, dead beyond death. Han Fusheng was shocked again. David kicked Lu Chang to death with a random kick. "David, I'll tear your corpse into thousands of pieces, into mincemeat." Lu Buwei roared angrily, a surge of aura filling his body. At the center of Lu Buwei's brow, a black mark slowly appeared. The entire sky suddenly darkened, shrouded in black mist. Lu Buwei's clothes tore apart, and a purple robe draped over him. At this moment, Lu Buwei's face also began to blur, a cloud of black mist shrouding his head. Purple-robed emissary? Seeing Lu Buwei's outfit, David raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Today's perfect. I have to settle the grievances with your Demon Heart sect. David, don't think you're great. The reason you're still alive is the spiritual energy revival array still needs you. Wait until the spiritual energy revival array activates and your soul is completely sacrificed, your life will be worse than death. Lu Buwei looked coldly at David, his whole body shrouded in black mist, like a devil. Spiritual energy revival array? David was somewhat puzzled, not understanding what this array was. At that moment, Han Fusheng said, this spiritual energy revival array existed very early and was set up by the Daoist sect's sect master. It's just the Daoist sect was suddenly wiped out before this array activated. This array requires 8 people with special physiques, activated with special spells. But I just don't know why someone from the Demon Heart sect can activate this grand array. Hearing this, David immediately remembered things in the Daoist sect's secret realm. Sonia and the others were trapped in a secret realm, and there were several more people with special physiques. Only now did David know why the Demon Heart sect wanted to capture these people. And David himself had a special physique. Thinking of the stone statues in the Daoist sect's secret realm cave, David knew this grand array must be related to those weird stone statues. So the Demon Heart sect is playing such a big game of chess. Seems they want to rule the entire secular world. David said slowly. Humph, you underestimate us. Our ambition isn't just to rule the secular world. Lu Buwei snorted coldly. No matter what ambition you have, it'll never be realized. Today I'll take your life. After speaking, David's aura began to rise. But at that moment, the aura David exuded was quite different from Lu Buwei's. With this little ability, you dare to boast. After speaking, Lu Buwei reached out and grabbed at the sky. The billowing black mist instantly formed a heavy hammer in his hand. The heavy hammer emitted bursts of cold air, as if the surrounding air were about to condense. Chapter 24:15. Lu Buwei's body leaped up, then the heavy hammer slammed down on David. The surrounding air instantly turned into a vast expanse of white, directly sealing David. David! Seeing this, Han Qing'e yelled, wanting to help. She hadn't expected David to be at a disadvantage as soon as he made a move. After all, she was also David's person, she couldn't just watch David die before her. If they had to die, they'd die together. Han Fusheng grabbed Han Qing'e. He knew Han Qing'e would die if she charged up. Daughter, don't go. I'll come. Han Fusheng was about to rescue David. Although Han Fusheng's strength was inferior to Lu Buwei's, at this time, he could only save David with all his might. But just as Han Fusheng was about to make a move, he discovered clusters of red flames began erupting around David, and the originally condensed space instantly tore apart. The dragon-slaying sword in David's hand swung upward vigorously, and a terrifying sword glow went straight toward Lu Buwei. Boom! After a loud noise, the heavy hammer condensed from black mist in Lu Buwei's hand suddenly shattered. The huge impact directly knocked Lu Buwei out. With this little skill, how dare you say you'll crush me with one hand? David snorted coldly. Lu Buwei flipped over, fell to the ground, and took a few steps back before stabilizing his figure. How could you have such strength? Lu Buwei's face was full of disbelief. When Han Fusheng saw David had repelled Lu Buwei with a sword, he was instantly excited. Seemed he'd made the right choice having Han Qing'e follow David. David would definitely have a bright future. It's because you're too weak. After speaking, David raised the dragon-slaying sword high. The golden sword light soared into the sky, approaching the heavens. David swung his arms and slashed down fiercely. The huge sword light was like a tsunami, overwhelming toward Lu Buwei. Seeing this, Lu Buwei's face bulged with veins. Feeling the increasing pressure, he roared, "I'm not weak, I'm the strongest." Lu Buwei slapped his palm into the void. A terrifying roar sounded, and the black mist in the sky instantly shrank, then condensed into a huge vicious dog that leaped down from midair. The vicious dog roared, and a huge sound wave instantly shattered David's golden sword glow. Lu Buwei leaped up and stood on the vicious dog, looking down at David below. "David, this is a hellhound. No one can escape its maw," Lu Buwei said coldly. "Humph, this is just condensed from Yin energy. What hellhound? Ridiculous." David snorted coldly, unbothered. Looking for death, Lu Buwei stepped on the vicious dog's back and swooped toward David. The vicious dog roared, and streams of cold air billowed out, freezing the surroundings instantly. A thick layer of frost condensed around David again, binding him tightly. This condensed frost was stronger than Lu Buwei's earlier. Seeing this scene, Han Fusheng and Han Qing'er worried for David. They hadn't expected Lu Buwei to have such means. Seeing Lu Buwei driving the hellhound toward David, but David couldn't move, a crisp cry suddenly rang in the sky. Immediately after, a phoenix bird covered in raging flames appeared, its huge body covering David's head. The icy breath, under the huge wings of the phoenix bird, vanished instantly. The thick frost on David also disappeared. "This is Phoenix, Fire Phoenix!" Han Qing'er shouted excitedly. Han Fusheng was shocked. He didn't understand why a phoenix bird suddenly appeared. And the phoenix bird seemed to come to help David. Chapter 24:16. Lu Buwei looked at the dancing fire phoenix, his face full of shock. Keep in mind David's fire phoenix was real, while his hellhound was just condensed Yin energy. "David, I never expected you'd have a divine beast like fire phoenix helping you." Lu Buwei couldn't understand how David, at his level, could be helped by a divine beast. A divine beast like fire phoenix could only exist in the heavenly human realm or immortal realm. At this time, after helping David out of crisis, Fire Phoenix transformed into human form after circling midair and landed beside David. Everyone was shocked to see Fire Phoenix become a charming girl. After all, whether a monster or divine beast, if it could transform into human form, its strength must be considerable. "Master, this vicious dog dares bully the master. Let me kill it." After speaking, Fire Phoenix's palm flickered. Balls of scorching flames fell from the sky like cannonballs, hitting the huge hellhound. The hellhound didn't even have time to howl, it was defeated instantly, dissipating into a cloud of black mist again. "Lu Buwei, what other skills do you have? Use them." David looked at the bewildered Lu Buwei and said. At this moment, Lu Buwei's face was indescribably ugly. "David, you forced me." After speaking, Lu Buwei suddenly spat a mouthful of blood onto the ground. The blood seeped into the ground instantly, then the ground began trembling. A crack spread from Lu Buwei's feet. Along with clouds of black mist emerging from the ground, 5 huge bodies also crawled out. These were 5 pitch-black monsters. Each monster's mouth continuously emitted gloomy cold air. "David, this time it's not monsters condensed from Yin energy, they're real monsters from hell. Even with Fire Phoenix's help, you can't escape their claws." Lu Buwei roared aggressively. The 5 monsters surrounded David and Fire Phoenix. Seeing this, Han Fusheng wanted to help but was stopped by David. "Palace Master Han, just watch quietly. It's just Crescent Moon Castle, no need for you to make a move." David's face was confident. Even facing 5 hell monsters, David wasn't afraid at all. "David, you've already slept with my Qing'er. Stop calling Palace Master Han one by one. I'm waiting to hold my grandson." And Lingrong said to David. "Mom, what are you saying?" Han Qing'er blushed instantly. Fire Phoenix turned to look at David, but David was somewhat embarrassed. "I also want to give birth to a little dragon son," Fire Phoenix said to David in a low voice. David lowered his head at that moment, not knowing what to say. Seeing David surrounded by so many hell monsters, Lu Buwei wasn't nervous at all and was furious immediately. "David, you're still flirting when you're about to die. Today I'll send you to hell to accompany my son." After speaking, Lu Buwei commanded the 5 hell monsters to attack David and Fire Phoenix. Fire Phoenix looked disdainfully at Lu Buwei and said, "How dare you disrespect the master with 5 monsters?" After speaking, Fire Phoenix let out a cry. Suddenly, the world darkened, and the void trembled violently. They saw a dozen huge figures slowly fly out of the darkness. Flying eagles, leopards, hunting tigers. All large monsters, each carrying an extremely powerful aura. These suddenly appearing monsters protected David and Fire Phoenix in the middle. Roar! These monsters' roars scared Lu Buwei's 5 hell monsters. They didn't dare advance. Seeing this scene, Lu Buwei was dumbfounded. Aren't these monsters from the Monster Beast secret realm? How did they teleport here? Lu Buwei didn't understand. How did monsters from the Monster Beast secret realm leave it? Keep in mind, many of these monsters had awakened intelligence and could understand human speech but couldn't pass through teleportation arrays at all. Now these monsters suddenly appeared in the Thunder Gate's secret realm, greatly puzzling Lu Buwei. Chapter 24:17. These monsters are all under my command. Following my orders is far better than following your 5-headed idiots. David looked at Lu Buwei and said with a sneer, "How is this possible? These are monsters from the Monster Beast's secret realm. How could they all listen to you?" Lu Buwei could not believe it. How could so many monsters obey David? "If you don't believe me, then watch this." After David finished speaking, he said to more than a dozen large monsters, "Go and kill those 5 black-headed bastards." Upon David's order, the more than a dozen large monsters roared and attacked. Those 5 hellish monsters were no match. Those who were bitten ran wildly, trying to escape through the crack. But how would those monsters let them go? In just a few minutes, the 5 hell monsters summoned by Lu Buwei were reduced to nothing but piles of bones. Lu Buwei looked at those bones, his expression now extremely complicated. Finally, Lu Buwei let out a long sigh and slowly said, "David, your strength is indeed beyond my imagination, but it is impossible for you to save Zhixiao Mansion. Apart from the Demon Heart sect, no other sect will come. I have thousands of disciples now. Even if the entire Laymen's secret realm is destroyed, you will never leave this place. Disciples of Wanhua Castle, hear my order." Lu Buwei suddenly shouted loudly. Thousands of Wanhua Castle disciples gathered in the darkness, then responded in unison, "Yes." The simultaneous shout of thousands shook the heavens, its terrifying force making the legs of the people from Zhixiao Mansion tremble in fear. Even Han Fusheng's face turned pale. With so many people, no matter how powerful David was, even with Huafeng and these monsters helping, having to deal with thousands would surely exhaust him to death in the end. A sneer covered David's face as he glanced at the thousands of Wanhua Castle disciples, his eyes full of disdain. David glanced at Huafeng, who gave a slight nod. The two were in sync. Immediately afterward, Huafeng let out a low growl from his throat. The dozen or so monsters around them screamed loudly, and with their roars, the entire land of the Laymen's secret realm began to tremble violently. Then everyone saw in the distance a rolling cloud of dust, swarming forward like a sandstorm. An extremely terrifying aura transformed into gusts of fierce wind, blowing so hard that people could barely stand. "What is this? This aura is terrifying." Han Fusheng tightly shielded Han Qing'er. And Lu Buwei also wore a solemn expression, watching the billowing dust approach from afar. Soon, the dust cloud dispersed, and everyone saw countless monsters, densely packed and boundless. Seeing this scene, Lu Buwei's courage immediately failed him. He had never seen so many monsters before. Had this attracted every monster in the entire Monster Beast secret realm? The thousands of Wanhua Castle disciples looked at the endless tide of monsters before them, their legs shaking, having lost all the arrogance they had shown moments before. Some of the more timid Wanhua Castle disciples had already pissed their pants. "Lu Buwei, although I don't have as many people as you, I have plenty of little monster beasts to keep you company." David looked at Lu Buwei and said proudly. At this moment, Lu Buwei's face was as ugly as if he had eaten shit. He involuntarily retreated. Facing so many monsters, he knew he stood no chance of winning, even his thousands of disciples were useless. Seeing that Lu Buwei was about to escape, David glanced at Hufeng. Hufeng nodded, waved his large hand, and said, "Attack." Countless monsters roared and charged toward the Wanyue Castle disciples. For a moment, the entire Thunder Gate's secret realm was like purgatory, filled with constant wailing. The Wanyue Castle disciples fled in all directions, pursued by countless monsters. Chapter 24:18. When Lu Buwei saw this, his face turned pale with fright, and he turned to run. "You can't run anymore." David leaped, then stamped fiercely on Lu Buwei's back, sending him crashing down. Boom! Lu Buwei fell suddenly, creating a deep pit in the ground as a cloud of dust billowed into the sky. Han Fusheng and the others stared dumbfounded at the scene before them, not knowing what to do. Thousands were being chased and torn apart by monsters, wailing was everywhere, limbs and arms littered the ground. The bloody scene made Han Qinger involuntarily close her eyes. Han Fusheng had never been sure David could block the Crescent Moon Fortress, but now he had not only blocked it, he had nearly destroyed it. Lu Buwei had also been easily handled by David. The strength David. David smiled slightly and waved to everyone, telling them not to be concerned. This Great One is too powerful. Before him, I felt like I didn't even have the strength to move. Han Fusheng said with lingering fear. That was merely a clone of his. The Great One's true form is likely even stronger. David said slowly. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. If the Great One was this powerful, how could David ever be his match? Having witnessed the Great One's strength today, David also knew that even with the God King's bow and the power of the Tao patterns, he probably was no match for that Great One. In his view, this Great One's strength was not inferior to those old demon heads, and it seemed the Great One also knew those demons, otherwise, he wouldn't have said what he did earlier. Who exactly is this Great One of the Demon Heart sect? David fell deep into thought. At this moment, Long Ruotong and Ji Rushue also arrived. Having heard the commotion and fearing David was in danger, they had rushed over. "David, are you all right?" Seeing David's complexion wasn't great, Long Ruotong hurriedly asked with concern. "Mom, I'm fine," David said with a smile upon seeing Long Ruotong. Seeing David was truly unharmed, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, Han Fusheng wanted David to rest at Zixia Mansion for a few days before leaving, but David was anxious to return to the capital and did not stay in the laymen's secret realm. David asked Hufeng to lead the monsters back to the monster beast's secret realm. He knew he would need Hufeng again in the future, as David had only resolved one of the 8 secret realms. "Qinger, you are David's woman now. Remember to take good care of him and don't be petty," Enlingrong instructed Han Qinger. "Mom, I understand." Han Qinger nodded. After bidding farewell to Han Fusheng and his wife, David and the others teleported back to Kyoto. When Long Ruotong returned to the Long family had already changed beyond recognition. The entire Long men had become the greatest sect in all of Kyoto. Seeing David's current achievements, Long Ruotong was overjoyed. Ji Rushue knew that David and his mother had just reunited and must have much to talk about, so she left with the other girls, giving David and Long Ruotong some space. The mother and son talked for nearly the entire night, as if they had endless things to say. "Mom, who is my father? I'm so curious now. Many call me the son of the dragon. What is going on? And Steward Long said my father abandoned you and left us. Is that true?" David asked Long Ruotong. He wanted to know who his father truly was. Why had he abandoned mother and son back then, causing his mother to be imprisoned in the Long family for over 20 years? Hearing this, Long Ruotong fell into deep thought and remained silent for a long time. Seeing this, David quickly said, "Mom, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Now that mother and son are reunited, I am very content." David knew he might have stirred his mother's sorrows. Besides, his grandfather might not be dead either. "There's nothing I can't say." Long Ruotong gazed out the window and said slowly, "Your father is a great hero, a champion of the world. Don't hate him, he must have had his reasons for abandoning us. The heavenly dragon ring on your hand and the cultivation technique you practice belong to your father. His identity is definitely not ordinary, but I have never asked who he is. No matter what he did, he is still your father. Chapter 24-21. Listening to his mother's words, David fell silent. He didn't know whether he should hate this father he had never met. He didn't understand why his father would abandon mother and son, let alone who his father really was. David really wanted to tell his mother about the Tianlong temple, but he was afraid she would worry. "Mom, it's getting late. You should rest early." David stood up, planning to leave. "David, don't forget about giving Mom a grandson. Since you have so many girlfriends now, you can't let Mom lose hope of seeing her grandson, can you?" Long Ruodong reminded David again. "I understand," David nodded. Now that David had rescued his mother, he didn't have to force anything. He had already married Han Qinger and taken Huafeng, but thinking of Sonia, David always felt guilty toward her. After all, Sonia was considered David's first real girlfriend, yet David had failed to give Sonia her first time. Thinking of Sonia, David planned to go to the secret realm of the Taoist sect to see Sonia and Wu Meyer. At dawn the next day, David planned to set out for the Taoist sect's secret realm. But he was stopped by Ji Ruxue. She had already guessed that after returning to the capital, David would definitely visit Sonia. "David, you can't go. Things are different now. This time we've seen the Great One's strength. What if you go to that secret realm to meet Yuchi and get detained there? With your current strength, can you escape from that Great One's grasp? I think what you need to do now is improve your power and find a way to deal with the Demon Heart sect's forces around you." Ji Ruxue analyzed for David. Ji Ruxue was a former leader. She analyzed the current situation logically. Combined with her fairy-like appearance, David looked at Ji Ruxue with loving eyes. "Alright, I'll listen to you. Then I'll start with the 8 secret realms and eradicate all the purple-robed envoys of the Demon Heart sect." David nodded and said, "I think you should go see Mr. Shi. Maybe Mr. Shi can help you." Ji Ruxue said. "Alright." David nodded again. David followed Ji Ruxue's advice and didn't go to the Taoist sect's secret realm. After all, he couldn't rescue Sonia and the others now. It seemed that to save Sonia and the others, David had to destroy the spirit energy recovery array. With David's current strength, he couldn't fight the Demon Heart sect's Great One head-on. When David arrived at the Guardian Pavilion, Xing Jun was already waiting at the door. "David, Mr. Shi guessed right. After you return to the capital, you will definitely come to him," Xing Jun said with a smile. "Mr. Shi knows I'm back?" David asked in surprise. "Of course. What happens in the capital, what can be hidden from Mr. Shi? Come with me." Xing Jun brought David into Mr. Shi's office. Upon entering the office, David noticed Mr. Shi's complexion looked a bit off, and his aura seemed to be lacking something. "Mr. Shi, are you ill?" David looked at Mr. Shi and asked. Mr. Shi shook his head, then waved Xing Jun out. "Sit down." Mr. Shi invited David to sit opposite him. "You've gained a lot this time, haven't you?" Mr. Shi asked David. David nodded. "The gains are not small. My strength has improved a lot, and I've also obtained some magical weapons." Mr. Shi smiled and said, "These magical weapons are only performing at 1/10 of their capability in your hands. You still need to work hard." David was startled, feeling very puzzled as he said, "Mr. Shi, do you know what I obtained?" Chapter 24-22. "Of course I know, the Dragon Pattern Bell and the God King's Bow. These aren't the kind of magical weapons you imagine. Obtaining these things is both good and bad for you. They come with immense pressure from all sides," Mr. Shi said slowly. David was bewildered. He had never told Mr. Shi what magical weapons he had obtained. How did Mr. Shi know? Seeing David's puzzled face, Mr. Shi smiled faintly and continued, "You are like a transparent person in front of me, so there's no way you can hide anything from me." Hearing Mr. Shi say this, displayed completely overturned Han Fusheng's imagination. He did not know what David had experienced these past few months, but his power had improved so rapidly. Lu Buwei stood up from the deep pit, covered in blood, his entire body in a wretched state. "David, I am the purple-robed emissary of the Demon Heart sect. If you dare kill me, you may make your girlfriend in the secret realm die without a burial place." Lu Buwei began to threaten David with Sonia. After all, Sonia was trapped in the Taoist sect's secret realm, and people from the Demon Heart sect could attack them at any time. "Lu Buwei, have you forgotten what you just said? They won't be in danger before the spirit energy recovery array is activated, and it's impossible for the great power to ruin his life's work for your sake." David knew that Sonia and the others, with their special physiques, were key to the spirit recovery formation, and the Demon Heart sect would not kill them easily. Seeing that he could not deceive David, Lu Buwei's face turned even uglier. Now, seriously injured again, he was no longer David's match. "It seems I can only seek help." After Lu Buwei finished speaking, he took out an extremely dark token from his robes. The token was so black that it was impossible to see what was inscribed on it. Lu Buwei forced a drop of blood from his forehead, which was then absorbed by the token. The token emitted waves of scorching flames, and then a figure slowly emerged from the flames. This figure wore black robes, his entire person seeming to exist in a void, his face completely indiscernible. But the moment this figure appeared, an incomparably terrifying and dreadful aura instantly permeated the entire layman's secret realm. The monsters that had been fighting stopped at this moment, looking at this figure with horror in their eyes. "Master, this person's aura is too powerful," Huifeng said to David with a grave expression after seeing the figure that had appeared. David also felt this aura, and at this moment, the power of the Tao patterns within David's body began to surge violently. David frowned slightly, not understanding why his Tao pattern power would react so intensely after this figure appeared. This subordinate pays homage to the Great One. Upon seeing the figure appear, Lu Buwei hastily bowed down. When David heard this, the muscles on his face instantly began to twitch, and his fists clenched tightly together. This was his first time having such close contact with the supreme existence of the Demon Heart sect. Han Fusheng's face was also grim at this moment. He had never expected the Demon Heart sect's authority and strength to be so terrifying. There might not be a single person across the 8 great secret realms capable of opposing it. "Trash, you can't even handle this properly. The other secret realms have been secured, yet you summon me here for this shit." The Great One reprimanded Lu Buwei in a low voice. Lu Buwei knelt on the ground, trembling all over. "Leave this to me. You may go." The Great One waved his hand, dismissing Lu Buwei. Lu Buwei hurriedly rose and turned to leave. Chapter 24:19. "Want to leave? Did you ask me?" Seeing that Lu Buwei was about to leave, David leaped to catch up. Seeing this, the Great One waved his palm lightly, and a tremendous force instantly sent David flying. "Boy, if you weren't needed for the spirit energy recovery formation, do you think you would have survived to this day?" The Great One looked at David and said disdainfully. David stared fixedly at the Great One before him, clenched his right fist, and then the dragon power within his body erupted to its limit. "Holy Light Fist!" David shouted loudly, bright golden light exploded forth, and a massive golden dragon instantly appeared. The dragon roared, and dragon's breath surged out one wave after another, heading straight for the Great One. "You still dare to resist?" Facing the golden dragon before him, the Great One showed no fear. The Great One waved his hand lightly again, the aura around him churned and surged, colliding with the golden dragon. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the golden dragon instantly turned to nothingness, and David's body was sent flying high into the air by the tremendous shockwave. Even with David striking with all his might, he was utterly powerless before this Great One. However, as David's body was sent soaring into the air, a divine bow suddenly appeared in his hand. The power of the Tao patterns condensed between David's palms, and he abruptly drew the God King's bow. Countless auras instantly surged between heaven and earth, forming a golden arrow upon the God King's bow. When Han Fusheng and the others saw the God King's bow suddenly appear in David's hand, they were all stunned, their faces filled with disbelief. Because the aura emanating from that God King's bow was enough to crush every one of them. The moment David took out the God King's bow, even that Great One's expression shifted slightly. Whoosh! Before anyone could react, David released the arrow. The golden arrow, trailing raging flames, shot forth like a meteor, extremely fast. Only, David's arrow was not aimed at the Great One, but at Lu Buwei, who had already fled more than 10 miles away. At this moment, Lu Buwei was still grateful for his escape. But he knew that after using this final protective token, he might no longer be able to compare with the other purple-robed envoys in the Demon Heart sect. Lu Buwei hadn't expected that purple-robed envoys could be found in every secret realm. To this day, Lu Buwei still didn't know the true identities of the other purple-robed envoys. But at this moment, Lu Buwei suddenly sensed a dangerous aura approaching. The suffocating pressure made him whirl around abruptly. The moment Lu Buwei turned his head, he saw a dazzling golden light speeding toward him. Before he could react, the golden light instantly pierced through Lu Buwei's body. Lu Buwei's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at his own body. There was no physical wound, not even any pain. Lu Buwei was stunned, and before he could comprehend what was happening, his body suddenly began to swell. Boom! An explosion that reverberated across the heavens, and Lu Buwei's body was instantly blasted into dust. This time, not even his soul remained. He would never have another chance to reform his body. David watched the distant smoke from the explosion, a smile appearing at the corner of his mouth, as his body slowly descended. David's earlier move against the Great One was never intended to defeat him. He was letting his opponent lower his guard so he could unexpectedly shoot Lu Buwei. Hearing the distant explosion, the Great One instantly understood what had happened, yet at this moment he showed not the slightest trace of anger. The God King's Bow. I never expected you to obtain the God King's Bow. It seems those old bastards have treated you well, even passing the power of the Tao patterns to you. The Great One's tone held a hint of surprise. Enough bullshit, let's fight. David drew the God King's Bow, and another arrow appeared. Chapter 24:20. Ha ha ha, I said I won't kill you, so why bother fighting? The Great One laughed. When the Spirit Energy Recovery Array activates, I will let you know you're nothing but a clown. With that, the Great One's body slowly faded away. After the Great One vanished, David sat down on the ground. The earlier punch exchange with the Great One had given David internal injuries. Master! David! Hua Feng, Han Qinger, and Han Fusheng hurried over. Don't worry, I'm fine. David broke into a cold sweat. If he was like a transparent person in front of Mr. Shi, that meant Mr. Shi knew everything about him. Did Mr. Shi also know everything about him, Hua Feng, and Han Qinger? Mr. Shi, who are you? Why do you know me so well? Do you also know about my other, private affairs? David asked tentatively. I can't be bothered to know about you sleeping with women. Mr. Shi knew exactly what David wanted to ask. This time, David felt embarrassed and didn't know what to say. In the future, unless absolutely necessary, don't easily display those magical weapons you've obtained. With your current strength, you can't fully utilize them, but it will attract others' attention. Have you fought against the Great One of the Demon Heart sect? Mr. Shi asked David. David nodded. We fought, but the other party was just a clone. I'm no match for him at all. He doesn't want to kill you. If he did, it would take but a breath. To him, you are still useful, but he has always underestimated you, and that's exactly what I want. Mr. Shi said slowly. Hearing this, David frowned slightly, feeling a bit unconvinced. If I use the God King's Bow and the Dragon Pattern Bell, can't I contend with that Great One? Contend? Mr. Shi smiled. As I said, you can't bring out the full power of the Dragon Pattern Bell and the God King's Bow. How could you contend? Mr. Shi, compared to that Great One, who is stronger? In David's eyes, Mr. Shi's strength was also unfathomable. He and I are about even, but I'm afraid I won't live more than a month. Mr. Shi said. Mr. Shi's tone was very calm, as if he wasn't afraid of death at all. Why? Has Mr. Shi contracted some strange illness? Let me examine you, Mr. Shi. I believe I can find a cure. David was full of urgency. You must know that Mr. Shi had always accompanied him along the way. Without Mr. Shi, David didn't know if he would be where he was today. Moreover, Ji Ruxue and the others had also received Mr. Shi's true teachings. It was clear Mr. Shi had done this for his sake. Now that Mr. Shi was about to die soon, how could David not be nervous, not be anxious? Mr. Shi waved his hand and said, "It's useless. This is fate, you can't change fate." "With such great strength, can't you change your fate?" David asked. Mr. Shi looked at David and suddenly smiled. "You still need to broaden your horizons. When you reach other planes, you will understand what I'm saying today." David fell deep into thought. He found that every time he saw Mr. Shi, he received a heavy blow. Now that he was already a powerful figure in the integration realm, with the dragon pattern bell, the God King's bow in hand, plus the dragon-slaying sword, David always felt his strength was already very great. But now Mr. Shi said his strength wasn't enough at all, and he couldn't truly unleash the power of the magical weapons in his hand. Chapter 24-23. Leaving Mr. Shi's office, David fell into a state of self-doubt. Moreover, Mr. Shi having only 1 month to live was no small blow to David. At this point, David actually felt a bit dependent on Mr. Shi. Whenever he encountered difficulties or things he didn't understand, he liked to ask Mr. Shi. To David, Mr. Shi was both a teacher and a friend. What David didn't know was that at this moment, Mr. Shi was watching him from a high vantage point. Seeing David's expression, a faint smile appeared on Mr. Shi's face. "If I don't knock you down a peg, kid, your tail will be up in the clouds." Mr. Shi's mouth twitched slightly. After speaking, Mr. Shi took out a bronze mirror from his robe, engraved with densely packed various symbols. On the bronze mirror, several symbols were constantly flashing. Looking at the flickering symbols, Mr. Shi's smiling face gradually turned serious. The real test has just begun. The enemies in the future will be 1,000,000 times more terrifying. I hope you can endure it. Mr. Shi's gaze once again focused on David. David, walking far away, felt like someone was staring at him. He suddenly looked back but saw nothing. "It seems if I want to increase my strength quickly, I have to start with the 8 secret realms." David pushed aside the distracting thoughts in his head and decided to start with the 8 secret realms, improving himself through human strength. David went directly to the Gu family, found Good Sangsheng, and decided to take Good Sangsheng and start with the Fire Gate secret realm. "Mr. Chen, now the entire Fire Gate secret realm is the territory of the Battle Moon Pavilion. With just us, are we sure we can eliminate Jin Lifu?" Good Sangsheng asked worriedly. After all, if they went to the Fire Gate secret realm to seek revenge from Jin Lifu, they might not be his match, since the entire Fire Gate secret realm was now under Battle Moon Pavilion's control. Between Battle Moon Pavilion and Crescent Moon Fortress, which is more powerful? David asked Good Sangsheng. "I haven't compared them much, but Battle Moon Pavilion shouldn't be comparable to Crescent Moon Fortress, right?" Good Sangsheng said. "Exactly. I have destroyed Crescent Moon Fortress, and both Lu Buwei and his son are already dead by my hand. Would I still fear Battle Moon Pavilion?" David smiled lightly. Good Sangsheng's face was full of astonishment as he said in disbelief, "Mr. Chen destroyed Crescent Moon Fortress? What happened?" David recounted the story that Lu Buwei was also a purple-robed emissary of the Demon Heart sect, which shocked Good Sangsheng. "I never expected the Demon Heart sect had infiltrated the 8 secret realms long ago. I wonder if there are Demon Heart sect members in other secret realms." Good Sangsheng said, shocked. "There must be, but I will wipe them out one by one, one after another." A murderous intent flashed in David's eyes. "Mr. Chen, I'll go find Jiang Wuya, and we'll go take revenge on Jin Lifu together." After Good Sangsheng finished speaking, he found Jiang Wuya from the Heavenly Net Tower, and explained David's plan again. Jiang Wuya took the men from the Heavenly Net Tower, joined forces with the Gu family members, and followed David to the Fire Gate secret realm. David directly took out the 90,000 Li Mountains and Rivers map. Instead of using a teleportation array, he used the map to teleport everyone directly to the Fire Gate secret realm. This way, they could catch Jin Lifu off guard, as he would never expect David and the others had another method to teleport here besides the teleportation array. "Mr. Chen, what kind of treasure is this that can teleport to the 8 secret realms at will?" Seeing the power of the 90,000 Li Mountains and Rivers map, Jiang Wuya asked in shock. Chapter 24. This should be a teleportation-type magic weapon, the 90,000 Li Mountains and Rivers map. I don't know the specifics, I just figured out how to use this map. David said, somewhat embarrassed. He had obtained the 90,000 Li Mountains and Rivers map long ago but never knew how to use it or what it was for. Mr. Chen, what should we do next? Even if we launch a sneak attack on Battle Moon Pavilion, I'm afraid our small numbers won't be of much use. Besides, Battle Moon Pavilion's defense is notoriously tight, a sneak attack isn't easy. Good Sangsheng asked David. Although they had quietly entered the Fire Gate secret realm, launching a sneak attack on Battle Moon Pavilion was impossible, their numbers were too small, and Battle Moon Pavilion's defenses were famously strong. Who said we're going to sneak attack? I'm going to beat that Jin Lifu openly and destroy his Battle Moon Pavilion. David smiled lightly, then headed straight for Battle Moon Pavilion. After Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya exchanged glances, they had no choice but to lead the others to follow. Meanwhile, at Battle Moon Pavilion, Jin Lifu was drinking with his son Jin Yuan. The two were quite cheerful right now. Now, in the entire Fire Gate secret realm, their Battle Moon Pavilion stood alone, and all resources belonged to them. And once the spirit energy recovered, he, Jin Lifu, would be able to become a king and worship a minister. Their Battle Moon Pavilion would become one of the top sects in the entire secular world. It might even be possible to expand into the celestial realm. Dad, is the Demon Heart sect's power you mentioned really that strong? Strong enough to make you willingly submit for decades? Jin Yuan asked, puzzled. After all, his father was also the master of a pavilion, with hundreds of disciples under him. How could he submit to others? What do you know? With my meager abilities, in front of the Great One, I'm nothing but shit. And let me tell you, we are in a cooperative relationship. As long as the Spirit Energy Recovery Formation launches successfully, our Battle Moon Pavilion will prosper instantly. Do you understand? Jin Lifu was a bit drunk, his face full of smugness. I think it's good enough that Battle Moon Pavilion can occupy the entire Fire Gate secret realm. Jin Yuan said. You bastard, you have no ambition at all. Are you even a man? Get out. Jin Lifu flew into a rage and cursed Jin Yuan out. Seeing this, Jin Yuan had no choice but to get up and leave. It wasn't that Jin Yuan didn't want to cooperate with the Demon Heart sect, he was just afraid that if the spirit energy recovery failed, they might lose even the Fire Gate secret realm. Jin Yuan walked out of Battle Moon Pavilion and leaped onto the top of a 100-meter-high tower in front of the pavilion. There were more than a dozen such towers around Battle Moon Pavilion. These towers weren't used as watchtowers but to set up formations. You must know, Battle Moon Pavilion occupied a vast secret land. To protect the entire pavilion with formations, such towers were necessary as junctions. And at the center of each tower was a purple crystal stone. This type of crystal stone was used to transmit energy to this massive formation. It was also because of this enormous formation that Battle Moon Pavilion grew stronger and stronger in the Fire Gate secret realm. After all, their base had never been attacked, thanks to the formation's existence. Jin Yuan stood on the tower, gazing into the distance. The entire Fire Gate secret realm was their domain. But soon, Jin Yuan saw a group of figures gradually appearing in his sight, and this group was moving very fast. Who are these people? Jin Yuan frowned slightly. After all, apart from Battle Moon Pavilion disciples, there were no other sects or families in this Fire Gate secret realm. But the people before him didn't look like Battle Moon Pavilion disciples, nor did it seem they had sent out such a group today. Chapter 24-25. As the group drew closer and closer, a look of surprise flashed in Jin Yuan's eyes. David? Jin Yuan hadn't expected David to be walking at the front, with Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya behind him. What are they here for? To surrender? Jin Yuan frowned slightly, jumped down, and hurried into the room, wanting to tell his father about it. But when Jin Yuan ran in, he found Jin Lifu had drunk too much and was sound asleep. Seeing this, Jin Yuan had no choice but to lead his men toward the gate of Battle Moon Pavilion. Because there was a protective formation here and the number of Battle Moon Pavilion disciples had doubled, Jin Yuan wasn't afraid to face Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya alone. At this time, David had brought his people to the gate of Battle Moon Pavilion. Good Sangsheng pointed at the surrounding towers and said, "Mr. Chen, these towers are the pillars supporting Battle Moon Pavilion's formation. Such a large formation requires astonishing energy, and the demands on the formation masters are very strict. So Battle Moon Pavilion broke down the huge formations into smaller ones one by one, then connected them with these towers. Amethyst is placed on top of these towers to supply the massive energy consumption of the formations." Good Sangsheng explained the situation of Battle Moon Pavilion to David in detail. David merely glanced at Battle Moon Pavilion's formation, then sneered coldly, "This patched-together formation is full of loopholes, there's nothing to fear." As soon as David finished speaking, Jin Yuan sneered and brought his men out. "What a big tone, saying our formation is full of loopholes and there's nothing to fear. Do you know no one has ever breached Battle Moon Pavilion's formation, including Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya behind you? Ask them if they can get through our formation." Jin Yuan said proudly. "No one broke it before because I hadn't come. If I had, your broken formation would have been breached long ago." David said flatly. "Bullshit, why don't you brag some more? Break one now and let me see. I'll wait inside. If you have the ability, break it. I want to see how capable you are." Jin Yuan said fiercely. He spat at David. He didn't believe David could breach the formation. Even people at the level of Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya couldn't break through. If David could, wasn't that a joke? "I don't need to break your formation. My little brothers can break it for you," David said disdainfully. "Little brothers?" Jin Yuan was startled. Even Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya were stunned, not understanding who the little brothers David was referring to. But just as David's words fell, a cry sounded, and then a fire phoenix spread its wings and arrived. After circling above David's head a few times, it slowly landed beside David and transformed into a woman. "Master," Hufeng respectfully called out to David. Seeing Hufeng's appearance, Jin Yuan's eyes instantly lit up. This is a divine beast. It can even transform into human form, and it's so beautiful." Jin Yuan looked at Hufeng with narrowed eyes. Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya also looked at Hufeng in shock. They knew monsters that could freely change into human form must be quite powerful. And this wasn't a monster, this was a fire phoenix, a real divine beast. They didn't understand, how had David gotten a divine beast? And it even called David master, clearly obeying him. "Mr. Chen, is this the little brother you mentioned?" Jiang Wuya asked David. He thought the little brother David mentioned was this fire phoenix. "This is my woman. My little brothers are behind." After David finished speaking, he glanced at Hufeng. Hufeng nodded, and then the entire earth began to tremble. Chapter 24-26. Booming. Infinite auras slowly approached from a distance, followed by densely packed monsters beyond count, surging over. The intense dust, like a sandstorm, covered half the sky. Looking at the boundless tide of monsters, Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya were dumbfounded. And when Jin Yuan saw this scene, he was stunned, with a touch of horror in his eyes. When those monsters arrived behind David, they all halted. Every monster exuded a terrifying aura. These auras gathered together, making even experts like Good Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya feel somewhat suffocated. "These are my little brothers. I'll have them break this formation," David said with a faint smile. Although Jin Yuan was a little scared looking at those monsters, he remembered Battle Moon Pavilion was protected by a powerful formation, so he snorted coldly and said, "David, don't dream. Even experts like Good Sangsheng can't breach our formation. You still think you can break it with these monsters? That's sheer fantasy. Whether it's fantasy, you'll know soon." David smiled lightly, then waved his hand and said, "Little brothers, attack." Roar. Countless monsters roared and began charging toward Battle Moon Pavilion. These monsters bypassed David's group and rushed toward Battle Moon Pavilion. This time, Jin Yuan grew a little frightened, hurry, go strengthen the formation, and wake my father, hurry. Jin Yuan sent someone to summon Jin Lifu. Young master, don't worry too much. Our formation is very strong. Although there are many monsters, they aren't powerful enough to breach our formation. An elder of Battle Moon Pavilion said to the panicked Jin Yuan. Right, they can't breach it at all. I got a bit flustered myself. Jin Yuan calmed his mood. But at this moment, those monsters attacked Battle Moon Pavilion, and rays of light began to appear around it. These light rays directly blocked the monsters' attacks. Although many monsters slammed fiercely into the light, they were directly repelled, and some monsters died instantly. But these monsters weren't afraid, they didn't care at all. They all rushed toward Battle Moon Pavilion with red eyes because this was David's order. Seeing these monsters truly couldn't breach Battle Moon Pavilion's formation, David frowned slightly. And Jin Yuan taunted David, ha ha ha, did you blow it? You still want to break our magic formation? Look how many of your so-called little brothers have died. David looked at Jin Yuan's smug expression, his eyes filled with raging anger. Master, I'll go break this formation and then kill this bastard. Huifeng sensed the anger from David. This guy Jin Yuan couldn't even defeat a large demon beast like the Blazing Tiger, so he was no match for Huifeng. Huifeng wanted to kill him easily. No, since I said my little brothers would be able to breach this formation, they definitely will. After David finished speaking, he waved his palm and directed dozens of giant eagles to attack those high towers. Now, as long as one high tower was destroyed, cracks would appear in the formation. With cracks, loopholes could be opened, and then the entire formation would collapse. Seeing David commanding dozens of giant eagles to attack the towers and even targeting the amethyst, Jin Yuan panicked. Hurry, quickly, master, protect the towers. Fearing the towers would be taken down, Jin Yuan immediately yelled, ordering people to come forward and guard the towers. Soon, on the high towers, Battle Moon Pavilion disciples shot countless arrows, all aimed at those giant eagles. And the giant eagles also exhaled breaths, attacking the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples. Unfortunately, protected by the formation, the breaths of these giant eagles were all blocked. Chapter 24-27. Seeing that those monsters couldn't shake the magic circle at all, Jin Yuan started to get cocky. The disciples of Battle Moon Pavilion also wore mocking expressions, continuously shooting at those monsters. Huifeng looked at the monsters being shot down, her brows slightly furrowed, her expression somewhat unpleasant. If not for David's orders, she would have broken the formation right then. David, look at your so-called little brothers, what are they? Aren't they just target practice for our Battle Moon Pavilion disciples? Jin Yuan taunted David. With this magic circle, Jin Yuan wasn't afraid of David at all. David looked coldly at Jin Yuan, ignoring him, but the dragon crystal within his body began to erupt with rays of light. A golden dragon slowly appeared above David's head, and accompanied by bursts of dragon roars, the golden dragon soared into the sky. Seeing the golden dragon suddenly appear before them, Jin Yuan and the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples all turned serious. At this moment, they no longer had the arrogant look from before, many even broke into a cold sweat at the sight of this golden dragon. With a thought from David, the golden dragon roared and attacked a tower. And the tide-like monsters were still attacking with weapons that covered the sky and sun. Many Battle Moon Pavilion disciples shouted loudly, using every means to attack the monsters. The Battle Moon Pavilion disciples on the high tower desperately drew their bows and shot arrows like rain toward the golden dragon. The arrows shot at the golden dragon's body passed straight through without causing any harm. And the golden dragon opened its bloody maw, spewing dragon's breath toward a high tower. Rumbling. There was a violent explosion, and a white light flickered above the tower, blocking the dragon's breath attack. However, the dragon's breath kept pouring from the golden dragon's mouth, never stopping. After the white light resisted for a while, a crisp sound rang out, and then the entire tower began to shake. Boom! The white light vanished, and the tower collapsed. As the tower collapsed, a gap finally appeared in Battle Moon Pavilion's formation. Countless monsters changed direction, launching a violent assault toward this gap. Quick, stop them! Jin Yuan panicked and screamed. The Battle Moon Pavilion disciples desperately rushed toward the gap in the formation. By now, all the red-eyed monsters were charging madly, ignoring the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples' attacks. Many Battle Moon Pavilion disciples were sent flying, then died tragically under the trampling of these monsters. At the same time, the giant eagles in the sky finally had their revenge, spouting flames from their mouths, burning many Battle Moon Pavilion disciples to death. With this small gap, all the monsters began to attack here, causing the radiance of Battle Moon Pavilion's formation to flicker continuously, and the entire formation began to crumble. "Where's my dad? Hasn't he woken up yet?" Jin Yuan panicked and asked loudly. But at this moment, the entire Battle Moon Pavilion was in chaos, and no one heard Jin Yuan's question. Seeing this, Jin Yuan had no choice but to climb a high tower, looking at the scene before him with an ugly expression. He then commanded the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples to rush toward the gap in the formation. They had to plug the gap now, otherwise Battle Moon Pavilion would be finished. The gap in the formation grew larger and larger, and all the monsters rushed toward it insanely. By now, the gap was already filled with corpses, both monsters and Battle Moon Pavilion disciples. Soon, the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples grew afraid. These monsters weren't afraid of death, they were beasts. But the Battle Moon Pavilion disciples were all human. This kind of fighting had already made them fearful. "Run, I can't hold on anymore." With the shout of one Battle Moon Pavilion disciple, all the other Battle Moon Pavilion disciples turned and fled. Chapter 24-28. As soon as these Battle Moon Pavilion disciples ran away, a large number of monsters rushed into Battle Moon Pavilion's camp, and the gap in the formation widened even more. "Hold it, don't run away!" Jin Yuan roared angrily, but at this moment no one would listen to him. Seeing this, Jin Yuan could only jump down from the tower and run toward his father's room. Boom! With no one to stop them, the entire formation of Battle Moon Pavilion was finally destroyed, and more than a dozen high towers also collapsed instantly. Battle Moon Pavilion's buildings began to be wrecked by these monsters, and the disciples were hunted down by monsters. Looking at the scene before them, Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya were at a loss for words. At this moment, in Jin Lifu's room, Jin Yuan desperately slapped Jin Lifu. "Dad, wake up quickly, if you don't wake up we're dead." Jin Yuan called to Jin Lifu, but Jin Lifu seemed unable to hear him. Seeing this, Jin Yuan gritted his teeth for the last time, pulled down his pants, and pissed on Jin Lifu's face. Jin Lifu instantly woke up, cursing angrily, "Who the hell pissed on my face?" Because Jin Lifu had been bullied when very young, people often pissed on his face. It became a lifelong complex for him when he grew up. No matter what state Jin Lifu was in, if someone pissed on his face, he would react immediately. Jin Yuan knew about his father's issue, so he had to resort to this method as a last resort. "Dad, it's me, we." Jin Yuan was about to explain to Jin Lifu, but Jin Lifu slapped him hard across the face. "You fu **ing dare to piss on my face?" Jin Lifu glared at Jin Yuan. "Are you trying to rebel, you bastard?" Jin Yuan covered his face, full of grievance as he said, "Dad, Battle Moon Pavilion is finished, you should go out and look." Hearing this, Jin Lifu knew something was wrong and hurried out of the room. Seeing countless monsters wreaking havoc in Battle Moon Pavilion, many Battle Moon Pavilion disciples had died tragically. What the hell is going on here? Jin Lifu was confused, he'd just fallen asleep, how had things become like this? "Father, it's David. David recruited those monsters, broke our formation, and started massacring." Jin Yuan followed Jin Lifu and explained. "David?" Jin Lifu was startled, his brows slightly furrowed. But at that moment, a bull demon charged toward Jin Lifu. The bull demon exuded a powerful aura, its two nostrils still spraying fire. Seeing this, Jin Lifu casually slapped the bull monster to death. "Dare to destroy my Battle Moon Pavilion? When I see him, I'll definitely kill him." Jin Lifu roared angrily. "No need to wait, I'm here now." David, followed by Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya, walked over slowly. When Jin Lifu saw David and the others, fury burst from his eyes. David, I don't know what method you use to attract monsters to serve you, but no matter what method, you will die today. Jin Yuan, emboldened by his father's presence, wore a ferocious expression and shouted. A long sword instantly appeared in his hand. The sword, wrapped in sword energy, whistled as it shot straight toward David. David looked at Jin Yuan attacking him, disdain in his eyes. You dare to fight me? If it were your father, maybe it could interest me. After David finished speaking, the dragon-slaying sword instantly appeared in his hand. Then he stepped forward, followed by a crisp sound. The dragon-slaying sword directly cut Jin Yuan's long sword in half. Seeing this, Jin Yuan was stunned. He hadn't expected such a disparity in strength between himself and David. Immediately afterward, David's dragon-slaying sword rested on Jin Yuan's shoulder. Chapter 24-29. The icy cold breath instantly chilled Jin Yuan's neck, scaring him half to death. Now David only needed to move his arms slightly, and Jin Yuan's head would roll. Chen, David, don't mess around, don't mess around. If you kill me, my dad won't let you go. Jin Yuan was trembling all over, threatening David. Seeing his son fall into David's hands, Jin Lifu also grew very nervous, shouting at David, David, let my son go, or you'll die a gruesome death. You're the one at a disadvantage, how dare you threaten me? David sneered, then swung the dragon-slaying sword toward Jin Yuan. This time, Jin Yuan was terrified, hurriedly yelling, don't kill me, I'll promise you anything. Jin Yuan pissed himself, wetting his pants in fright. Seeing Jin Yuan like that, David smiled and didn't strike, but said to Jin Yuan, call me Grandpa, and I'll let you go. Don't call. Jin Lifu hurriedly roared at Jin Yuan. If Jin Yuan called David Grandpa as demanded, wouldn't that make him David's son? Facing this demand from David, Jin Yuan looked embarrassed and didn't know what to do. If you don't call, then go to hell. After David finished speaking, the dragon-slaying sword in his hand moved closer to Jin Yuan's neck. Jin Yuan could feel his neck turn cold as blood flowed out. Grandpa, don't kill me, don't kill me. Jin Yuan stammered, calling David Grandpa, which nearly made Jin Lifu die of anger. Ha ha ha, good grandson. David laughed. But Gut Sangsheng and Jiang Weia looked playfully at Jin Lifu, making him feel even more ashamed. I already called, can you let me go? Jin Yuan looked at David pleadingly. Of course. David smiled slightly, then slowly raised the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. But just as Jin Yuan breathed a sigh of relief, the dragon-slaying sword in David's hand suddenly slapped Jin Yuan's shoulder. Jin Yuan's body hit the ground heavily, followed by a mouthful of blood, and the energy in his body was instantly scattered. You! Jin Yuan looked at David angrily. I won't kill you because keeping you is still useful. David sneered. He kept Jin Yuan alive because he wanted to absorb the strength within Jin Yuan's body into himself. After David realized the strength gap between himself and that great one, he began to feel an incomparable desire for power again. Dad, kill him, kill him. Seeing that David had tricked him, Jin Yuan roared angrily. But at this moment, Jin Lifu's face was extremely pale. In his view, death wasn't terrible, what was terrible was being so fooled by others, it was too shameful. David, perhaps you already know some things. I won't kill you before the spirit energy recovery array is activated, but I will make your life worse than death. Jin Lifu's furious gaze fell on David. You're just a dog of the Demon Heart sect. I've already killed a dog like you. David raised the corner of his mouth slightly. What? You killed a purple-robed emissary? Impossible. Jin Lifu couldn't believe it. He didn't believe that with David's strength, he could kill a purple-robed emissary. Believe it or not, you'll know soon enough, it's impossible. David sneered. Then let me see what ability you have to kill a purple-robed emissary. After Jin Lifu finished speaking, a shocking aura began to emanate from his body. Sensing the aura emanating from Jin Lifu, David's eyes were full of disdain. To kill you, I don't need to use my full strength. Jin Lifu's strength was still a bit inferior to Lu Buwei's. Chapter 24:30. You brazen bastard, today I'll let you know how powerful I am. Jin Lifu yelled, his body suddenly shot out, then he grabbed at the void, a long whip appeared in his hand, and he lashed it toward David. Seeing Jin Lifu attack, David didn't panic at all, he simply stepped on the ground and lightly dodged to one side. The long whip in Jin Lifu's hand was like a poisonous snake, sticking close to David's body and lashing fiercely onto the ground, instantly carving out a deep pit as smoke and dust billowed. Seeing his move miss, Jin Lifu immediately swung his long whip again, and countless whip shadows instantly enveloped David. This time, David was surrounded by whip shadows with no room to dodge. Seeing this, David activated his dragon power. The dragon power within his body surged out, transforming into a barrier that blocked the countless whip shadows. Two streams of aura erupted and continuously collided. The whip shadows slammed fiercely against the barrier burst instantly, then struck David's body directly. David hadn't activated his indestructible golden body, so Jin Lifu's whip left only a mark on David's chest. Seeing he had the upper hand, Jin Lifu instantly grew proud. You're like an ant in front of me, yet you still want to challenge me? You really have the guts of a bear. Jin Lifu looked at David mockingly and said. David sneered, he didn't feel the slightest fear from being hit by Jin Lifu. It's only polite to return the favor. Since that's the case, I'll let you taste my power. After David finished speaking, he instantly swung the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. A wave of sword light followed, and the entire earth trembled continuously. Countless sword lights directly enveloped Jin Lifu, and the power of these sword lights was clearly much stronger than Jin Lifu's whip shadows. This! Jin Lifu was startled, his brows tightly furrowed. Looking at the countless sword lights around him, Jin Lifu suddenly lashed out with the long whip in his hand, the whip shadows clashing with those sword lights. But as soon as Jin Lifu's whip shadows touched the sword lights, they dissipated instantly. Jin Lifu could only desperately wave the long whip in his hand, not daring to stop for even a moment. In contrast, David looked at Jin Lifu with a sneer, then threw the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. The dragon-slaying sword radiated sword light, attacking Jin Lifu. The sword spirit within the dragon-slaying sword had already awakened its spiritual intelligence. Although not fully formed yet, it already possessed the ability to attack independently. Seeing this scene, Jin Lifu frowned even tighter. After David released the dragon-slaying sword, he slowly floated into the air and directly drew the God King's bow. The power of the Tao patterns within David's body erupted as he slowly drew the bowstring. The moment the bowstring was drawn, auras from all directions frantically rushed toward the God King's bow, instantly forming a golden arrow. What is this? Feeling the terrifying aura of the God King's bow, Jin Lifu's expression changed drastically. He could only wave the long whip in his hand so fast it became airtight. Whoosh! David shouted loudly, released his index finger from the bowstring, and shot that golden arrow out. The golden arrow was like a meteor, rushing toward Jin Lifu. Where the golden arrow passed, the wind howled and the void distorted. In the blink of an eye, the golden arrow arrived before Jin Lifu. Jin Lifu could only swing the long whip in his hand to its limit to block this golden arrow. Boom! The sound of collision rang out. The arrow's power was so immense it instantly shattered Jin Lifu's defense. What? Jin Lifu turned pale with shock. He hadn't expected David's bow and arrow to possess such power. Chapter 24:31. The moment the God King's bow appeared, Jin Lifu sensed a dangerous aura. Now an arrow was shot, but Jin Lifu had no ability to stop it, he could only watch the golden arrow approach him. Accompanied by an explosion, the arrow exuded a terrifying aura. Like a billowing thunderous breath, Jin Lifu fell into turbulent chaos. Jin Lifu's body suffered a violent impact, instantly sending him flying backward. Boom! Jin Lifu's body hit the ground heavily, instantly creating a deep ravine in the earth. David landed slowly, looking calmly at Jin Lifu. Just now, he was fully capable of killing Jin Lifu with one arrow. The reason David didn't was because he wanted Jin Lifu to be his cultivation resource. He wanted to absorb Jin Lifu's strength to increase his own realm. Jin Lifu slowly got up, pale-faced, looking at David in disbelief. Even Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya looked at David in shock. One must know their strength was no match for Jin Lifu's, otherwise, Jin Lifu wouldn't have driven them out of the Fire Gate's secret realm. But now David had easily defeated Jin Lifu. His strength was clearly greater than both of theirs. Especially the God King's bow in David's hand. The moment David took it out, an extremely shocking aura made Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya tremble. Fortunately, they and David were on the same side. If they were enemies, they knew that relying on the God King's bow in David's hand, it would be enough to send them to meet the King of Hell. Mr. Chen, what is this magic bow of yours? How can it be so powerful? Jiang Wuya asked David very curiously. This is the God King's bow, a kind of divine artifact. I can only use 1/10 of the God King's bow's power. If I could fully unleash the God King's bow's power, I'm afraid I could even shoot down the sun. David said slowly. This time, Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya were even more shocked. David could only exert 1/10 of the God King's bow's power, yet it left Jin Lifu helpless. What would happen if he used its full power? Hearing David's words, Jin Lifu's expression also changed drastically. Although he didn't know whether what David said was true, he had experienced the power of the God King's bow. David, I can surrender the Fire Gate's secret realm, as long as you're willing to spare our father and son. Jin Lifu knew that if the fight continued, he wouldn't gain any advantage. Now, David alone was already more than he could handle. If Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya joined in, he might not withstand even one move. What's more, now his Battle Moon Pavilion disciples were almost all slaughtered by those monsters. Even if Jin Lifu stayed in the Fire Gate's secret realm, it would be useless. After the spirit energy recovered, these secret realms would become history and cease to exist. That's why Jin Lifu was willing to surrender the Fire Gate's secret realm to David. Even if David obtained it, it wouldn't last long at all. I have not the slightest interest in this secret realm. What I want is your strength. If you and your son are willing to surrender the strength within your bodies, I can spare your lives. David said flatly. When Jin Lifu heard this, he immediately grew furious and said, wishful thinking. You and I are both cultivators, you should understand that losing one's strength is worse than death. David looked at Jin Lifu's attitude, not at all surprised, because he knew Jin Lifu wouldn't agree. I agree. David, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to dedicate my strength. Jin Yuan collapsed on the ground and said loudly to David. Now Jin Yuan was already like a fish on the chopping board, letting David slaughter him. Even if he disagreed, it couldn't stop David at all, and in the end, he would still lose his life. After weighing the pros and cons, Jin Yuan decided to agree to David, dedicate his strength, and let David spare his life. Chapter 24:32. Bastard, son of AB, TCH, you are too disgraceful to Battle Moon Pavilion. Death is the worst outcome, why are you so cowardly? Seeing his son agree to David and beg him like a cur made Jin Lifu feel ashamed. Father, a man must be aware of current affairs. If our lives are gone, what's the use of our strength? Jin Yuan said to Jin Lifu indifferently. Shut up, don't call me father anymore, I'm not your father. Jin Lifu was so angry his face flushed, he was about to die of rage. Are you truly willing to dedicate your strength? David looked at Jin Yuan with a sneer and asked. Yes, I am willing. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to do anything. Jin Yuan nodded repeatedly. Alright, come here. After I absorb your strength, I'll let you go. David said. Without hesitation, Jin Yuan crawled toward David. Bastard, I'll kill you. Jin Lifu was about to explode. Seeing his son crawling toward David like a dog, he decided to clean house. But when Jin Lifu made his move, Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya also moved. The two directly blocked Jin Lifu. Now that Jin Lifu was injured, he was no longer a match for Gu Sangsheng and Jiang Wuya. Jin Yuan quickly crawled up to David. David stretched out his hand and gently pressed it against Jin Yuan's head. Instantly, a tremendous suction force began absorbing the strength within Jin Yuan's body. Jin Yuan's body trembled, his face extremely hideous. Although enduring great pain, he could only bear it to survive. Soon, the strength in Jin Yuan's body was absorbed by David. Chapter 24:33. Jin Lifu's pupils contracted violently as he looked at David in disbelief. He truly hadn't expected that in front of David, he would lose even the ability to die. David walked up to Jin Lifu, looking at him restrained and powerless to fight back. A smug expression appeared on David's face. "David, don't be smug. I'm not the only purple-robed emissary, and the spirit energy will be revived soon. By then, all of you will die." Jin Lifu gritted his teeth and roared at David. "I don't know if I will die or not, but you are about to die." After David finished speaking, he slapped Jin Lifu with his palm. The strength within Jin Lifu's body was quickly absorbed by David, and soon he turned into a mummy. After absorbing the strength of Jin Yuan and Jin Lifu, David felt the aura within his body surging continuously. This was a sign of a breakthrough. David glanced at the monster beast corpses strewn across the ground and said to Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya, "Old Gu, Mr. Jiang, lead some men to extract all the beast cores from the dead monster beasts. With these beast cores, perhaps we can break through. Master, if needed, I can make these monsters spit out their beast cores for you." Seeing this, Huifeng said to David. With just a word from Huifeng, these monsters would sacrifice themselves and spit out their beast cores. David waved his hand, "Don't do that, I will need them to deal with the other secret realms." These surviving monsters were of great use to David. After the earlier battle, many monsters had died. David felt the dead monsters were enough. Soon, the beast cores were extracted and brought to David. The hill-like pile of beast cores emitted a colorful glow. David didn't know how many days it would take him to break through this time, so he said, "You stand guard, don't let anyone disturb me." "Don't worry, Mr. Chen. We will absolutely not let anyone disturb you," Gutsangsheng said. "Master, I will stay by your side, no one can disturb you," Huifeng also said. Only then did David sit cross-legged peacefully. The concentration art was activated, and a large amount of spiritual power from the beast cores rapidly entered David's body. Gutsangsheng and the others waited on the sidelines. 7 days passed, and the hill-like pile of beast cores in front of David had dwindled considerably. But there was still no sign of a breakthrough from David's body. "It's too frightening. There are so many beast cores, yet he still hasn't broken through," Jiang Wuya said in shock. "Let's wait and see. Mr. Chen needs massive resources to break through, but the strength he displays after breaking through is beyond our reach," Gutsangsheng said. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, it was the 10th day, and all the beast cores on the ground had been consumed. Seeing this, Huifeng decided to summon some monsters and have them spit out beast cores to provide David with resources for breakthrough. Otherwise, David had reached a critical moment, he couldn't abandon all his previous efforts. But just as Huifeng was about to summon some monsters, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from David's body. This aura shot straight into the sky, and soon from above the clouds, a beam of light descended from the heavens, directly enveloping David. Golden light flickered within the beam, its scope and contained aura incomparable to that of a thunder tribulation. Seeing this, Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya's eyes widened, their faces full of disbelief. What is this? Don't you need thunder tribulation to break through a major realm?" Jiang Wuya asked in disbelief. "Perhaps this is the difference between Mr. Chen and us. I think the power contained in this beam is stronger than thunder tribulation, but I don't know if Mr. Chen can withstand it," Gutsangsheng said with some concern. Chapter 24:34. Seeing this scene, Huifeng was also somewhat shocked. Sensing the terrifying power within the beam of light, Huifeng feared David might not withstand it and wanted to help him. But just as Huifeng moved to help David offset part of the force, her body was instantly repelled by the power in the beam, sent flying hundreds of meters away. The beam of light shone upon David's body, and David's physique rapidly transformed. The intense pain covered David's forehead with cold sweat. David gritted his teeth and remained motionless, because he knew this was the most critical moment. As long as he persevered, it would count as a complete breakthrough. At that time, not only would his strength improve, but his physical body would also be greatly enhanced. A white cloud slowly appeared in the sky and, under the light, transformed into a colorful auspicious cloud. Sitting beneath the auspicious clouds, David looked like an immortal. I don't know how long passed, but the pain in David's body vanished, and then his entire body felt as if soaking in the sun in a hot spring. Look, the beam of light has changed. Jiang Wuya shouted. At this moment, the power within the beam had become gentler, no longer as terrifying as before. At this time, David felt a tremendous buoyant force slowly lifting him up. David's body began to hang in the air, flying all the way toward the colorful auspicious clouds. Gradually, David was bathed in golden light and his body grew taller and taller, just like a god. David's body quickly passed through the auspicious cloud. Stepping onto the auspicious cloud, David felt boundless power within his body. David waved his hand lightly, and the dragon-slaying sword instantly appeared in his hand. Only this time, after David injected dragon power into the dragon-slaying sword, the sword trembled violently. David's thoughts attempted to communicate with the dragon-slaying sword spirit, but a slight obstruction began to appear. What's happening? David frowned slightly. When David increased the injection of power again, the dragon-slaying sword shook even more, as if struggling in pain. David had no choice but to put the dragon-slaying sword away again. He didn't understand why the compatibility between the dragon-slaying sword and himself would decrease after his realm improved. After storing the dragon-slaying sword, David turned his attention to the dragon pattern clock. Before, David's realm had been too low, forcibly activating the dragon pattern clock had nearly killed him. Now that his realm had improved, David wanted to see if he could control this dragon pattern clock now. He took out the dragon pattern clock from his storage ring, looked at it in his hand, and suddenly threw it into the air. The dragon pattern clock instantly enlarged and spun in midair. David held a mallet in one hand, jumped up angrily, and slammed it down on the dragon pattern clock. Hum! A sound wave spread from the dragon pattern clock to the surroundings. The entire void began to distort and warp under the sound waves, the Fire Gate's secret realm shook violently, and the time and space of the entire secret realm seemed to be changing rapidly. The barren desert of the Fire Gate's secret realm was changing at a visible speed. Oases and jungles began to appear like scenes in a painting. This bewildered Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya below. They had stayed in the Fire Gate's secret realm for so many years and had never seen its environment change. One must know the 8 secret realms were created according to the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. Each secret realm had its own characteristics and geographical environment. Now, this geographical environment had actually been altered. Just as Gutsangsheng and Jiang Wuya were dumbfounded, David dropped his mallet again, heavily striking the dragon pattern clock. Although this time, David only felt his hands go numb from the shock, the sound of the dragon pattern clock was stronger than the first. By now, Jin Yuan seemed to have aged more than 10 years, no longer possessing a cultivator's aura. Can I go? Jin Yuan stood up with difficulty and asked David. Go, David waved his hand. Jin Yuan was overjoyed and hurried into the distance. Watching his son's back, Jin Lifu fell deep into thought. He now didn't understand, what was the purpose of his endless cultivation and insatiable desire for expansion? In the end, his son didn't agree with him, which was a heavy blow to Jin Lifu. Just after Jin Yuan had walked some distance, suddenly a fierce wild wolf monster charged toward Jin Yuan. Seeing this, Jin Yuan screamed in fright, desperately trying to escape. But now Jin Yuan was just an ordinary person, he couldn't outrun a wild wolf. He was quickly caught by the wild wolf, which fiercely bit his arm, tearing it off. Amid Jin Yuan's painful wails, the wild wolf tore him apart piece by piece, finally swallowing him whole. Watching his son being devoured by the wild wolf, Jin Lifu went insane. David, I'll fight you to the death. Even if I die, I won't let you succeed. Jin Lifu knew David had never intended to let Jin Yuan go. The wild wolf just now must have been sent by David. Jean Lifu roared, his body began to swell, the spiritual power within expanding rapidly as a terrifying aura began spreading through the air. Seeing this, David knew Jean Lifu was determined to die, wanting to perish together. He hurriedly drew the God King's bow. Between heaven and earth, countless specks of light converged upon the God King's bow, and a white arrow appeared. As soon as David released, the arrow shot toward Jean Lifu. The white arrow exploded in midair, forming a white aura net that directly enveloped Jean Lifu. The aura net continuously shrank, tightly restraining Jean Lifu's swollen body. No matter how hard he struggled, Jean Lifu couldn't break free. David walked coldly toward Jean Lifu. Chapter 24:35. The already changed environment transformed once more. The space of the entire secret realm began to distort, the turbulence of time and space wreaked continuous havoc, and the entire Fire Gate secret realm was on the verge of collapse. At this moment, David was still above the auspicious clouds, completely unaware of the changes in the Fire Gate secret realm caused by his 2 strikes of the mallet. In addition to the Fire Gate secret realm, other secret realms were also undergoing tremendous vibrations and changes amidst these sound waves. What happened? Yu Qian, in the Tianmen's secret realm, felt the shock of the secret realm, a trace of panic flashing in his eyes. In the Diamond's secret realm's purple thunder sect, Yao Qisheng, clad in a purple robe, also sensed the immense tremor in the secret realm. He hurriedly sent his disciple, Yao Xinghui, to investigate. But at this moment in the Demon Heart sect, the Great One opened his slightly closed eyes. Even within the secret realm where he resided, space was violently shaking. This David actually made a breakthrough. He still wants to break through the 8 secret realms one by one, but I won't give him this chance. After the Great One finished speaking, he waved his palm, and several bursts of purple light shot out. He intended to gather all the purple-robed emissaries together to prevent David from defeating them one by one. As long as they waited for the time to arrive and the spirit energy recovery array was activated, David would be of no further value. Meanwhile, David in the Fire Gate secret realm stored away the dragon pattern clock. With his current strength, he could activate the dragon pattern clock but could only utilize a portion of its power. When David jumped down from the auspicious clouds, he found the entire Fire Gate secret realm was no longer as it had been. With the space's turbulent harvest, the Fire Gate secret realm was no longer fit for habitation. How could this happen? David asked Gutsangsheng, full of surprise. Mr. Chen, was it because you activated the dragon pattern clock just now? After 2 rings of the dragon pattern clock, this secret realm became like this. Gutsangsheng said to David. This. David was somewhat embarrassed. He had merely been testing whether he could activate the dragon pattern clock, never expecting this simple trial would directly destroy the Fire Gate secret realm. Let's go quickly. I reckon this Fire Gate secret realm won't last much longer, it's about to collapse. After David finished speaking, he opened the 90,000 Li Mountains and Rivers map and was instantly teleported back to the capital. Having broken through in realm, David now felt much more confident. Although he wasn't as powerful as the Demon Heart sect's Great One, David was confident in dealing with those purple-robed emissaries. It's just that something was off with the dragon-slaying sword, it actually seemed to contradict David somewhat. You must know that this dragon-slaying sword had fought alongside David all the way, they had already become one, man and sword, and the dragon-slaying sword was already a part of David's body. Now that this situation had suddenly arisen, David found it hard to accept. Could it be because I have the God King's bow and dragon pattern clock, the dragon-slaying sword feels I intend to abandon it? David was very puzzled. Although the dragon-slaying sword wasn't as powerful as the God King's bow and dragon pattern clock, it was still a divine weapon. Its power had greatly diminished due to damage, requiring David to cultivate it bit by bit. David held the dragon-slaying sword in his hand again. When David injected a bit of dragon power, attempting to connect with the sword, the dragon-slaying sword vibrated violently, as if strongly resisting. David had no choice but to withdraw the dragon-slaying sword again. It seemed the dragon-slaying sword could no longer be used in the future. I wonder how Yuchi is doing. David decided to visit Sonia. Regardless of danger, He wanted to tell Sonia the good news that he had rescued his mother. And David truly missed Sonia after not seeing her for so long. David arrived at the backyard of the Kyoto Martial Arts Federation, the entrance to the Taoist sect's secret realm. After opening the entrance, David's figure slowly disappeared, appearing in the Taoist sect's secret realm. Chapter 24:36. When David appeared in the Taoist sect's secret realm, he was completely stunned. He saw that the entire Taoist sect's secret realm had changed drastically. The original caves had vanished, and 8 stone statues stood in the middle of the secret realm. Each statue was tens of meters tall, emitting a strange aura. David. Brother David. Seeing David, Sonia and Xiao Ru hurried over. The few of them seemed to be living well in the secret realm. They had all gained weight. What happened in this secret realm? David pointed at the statues tens of meters high and asked. These statues suddenly appeared some time ago, we don't know what happened. Sonia said. David looked at those statues. They were clearly the statues from the cave, only they had grown larger. David looked at one statue. Inside it, he could clearly sense a familiar aura. Why is there my aura in this statue? David frowned slightly and slowly walked to the statue's base. When David touched the statue with his hands, the familiar aura became more apparent, and there seemed to be a terrible suction force inside the statue, trying to pull David in. David's entire hand had already sunk into the statue, which frightened him. Just as David was about to shatter the statue with all his strength, Sonia leaped up, stood on the statue's head, and patted it lightly. The inexplicable suction instantly vanished, and David withdrew his hand from the statue. What's going on? David asked Sonia in shock. Each statue here corresponds to one of us here. Once you find the statue that matches you, you can enter it and control the statue. After Sonia finished speaking, she touched a statue. Sonia's body vanished instantly, directly sucked into the statue. Yuchi. David was shocked when he saw this. Brother David, don't be nervous, she's fine. Xiao Ru hurriedly stopped David. They saw the statue that Sonia had entered come alive after flashing with golden light. With a body tens of meters tall, it continuously moved forward, each step felt like an earthquake. Immediately after a flash of light, Sonia's figure reappeared, but the statue remained motionless. David looked at Sonia in surprise. How did you know you could control this statue? We also discovered it by accident, but we just don't know what these statues are for. Sonia said. David looked at those towering statues and knew they must be related to the Spirit Energy Recovery Formation. However, David still didn't know when the Spirit Energy Recovery Formation would be activated or how these statues would be used. Brother David, why did you come to see us? Xiao Ru asked David. I missed you all and came to visit. I also have some happy news to tell you. David smiled slightly and told Sonia about rescuing his mother. You really rescued Auntie? That's wonderful. Sonia was also very happy upon hearing this. Brother David, now that Auntie has been rescued, you and Sister Yuchi can get married and have children, right? Sister Yuchi has been with you for so long and hasn't yet given birth to a big, fat baby boy. Xiao Ru joked. Xiao Ru, what nonsense are you talking about? Whoever is fantasizing is not allowed to talk rubbish. Sonia glared at Xiao Ru. David looked at Sonia, guilt in his heart, and said, when I rescue you all, we will get married. Hearing this, Sonia blushed. She had waited a long time for this day, while Wu Meyer remained silent. Sonia was David's real girlfriend, but what was she? Chapter 24:37. The Demon Heart Sect's Secret Territory. Facing the 6 purple-robed emissaries before him, the Great One's expression was extremely ugly. In a short period, he had lost 2 purple-robed emissaries, and 2 secret realms had been breached by David. If it weren't for David's breakthrough and the ringing of the dragon bell reminding him, David might have broken through all 8 secret realms one by one. Before the Spirit Energy Recovery Array is activated, none of you are to leave here, to avoid being defeated by David one by one. Once the Spirit Energy recovers, David will lose his value. The Great One said to the 6 purple-robed emissaries. Hearing this, the six looked at each other in dismay. One purple-robed emissary stepped forward and said, "Great One, our families are still in the secret realms. If we stay here, what will happen to our families if David attacks them?" "Yes, all our family's assets and hard work are in the secret realms. If we stay here, what about our family businesses? Can we bring all our family members and disciples here? After all, the spirit energy will soon be revived. Once the secret realms collapse, we can live in the secular world." Several purple-robed emissaries did not want to stay in the Demon Heart Sect's secret realm. After all their hard work and family members were in their respective secret realms. They couldn't just abandon them. As cultivators, you should rid yourselves of emotions and desires. So-called familial bonds will hinder your cultivation. Once the spirit energy recovers and we rule the entire secular world, I can take you to the celestial realm to pursue higher levels of cultivation. At that time, you can live for tens of millions of years. What need is there for familial bonds? The Great One looked stern, reprimanding the purple-robed emissaries with great dissatisfaction. The purple-robed emissaries all fell silent. They knew there was no room for them to speak before the Great One. At that moment, a crystal-clear bead in front of the Great One suddenly shone with light, and then an image appeared within. It was the scene of David in the Taoist sect's secret realm. This kid actually dares to come to the secret realm? Seeing David appear in the Taoist sect's secret realm, the Great One couldn't help but be surprised. "Great One, I request to face David." At that moment, Ningji stepped forward, staring at David. He bore a mortal feud with David. To defeat David, Ningji had paid a great price, and now was the time for his revenge. The Great One looked at Ningji's anger and slowly nodded. "Remember, don't take his life. He is still needed for the spirit energy recovery formation." "Understood," Ningji nodded, then turned to leave. And the Great One said to the six purple-robed emissaries, "You go as well. Keep David in the secret realm so he doesn't cause trouble everywhere." The reason the Great One sent the six purple-robed emissaries was because he feared Ningji would lose his temper and kill David. That would be troublesome. The six purple-robed emissaries set out. If they could keep David in the secret realm, they wouldn't have to worry about their families. But being sent to assist Ningji made the six purple-robed emissaries very displeased. Meanwhile, in the Taoist sect's secret realm, David had searched the entire area. Aside from these statues tens of meters tall, there were no other abnormalities, and David found no traces of any magic circle. Thus, David didn't know how the Taoist sect had set up the spirit energy recovery formation. Any magic circle would leave traces and aura, but after looking around, David couldn't find any. "David, you'd better go. We're fine here, and there's no danger. If people from the Demon Heart sect know you're here, it will definitely be bad for you." Sonia urged David to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 24:38. "Don't worry, I will definitely come back and rescue you." David gently stroked Sonia's face, then turned to leave. But when David turned around, a flash of light suddenly appeared, and Ningji's figure instantly materialized before David. Seeing Ningji, David was stunned. "Ningji? You're not dead?" David looked at Ningji in disbelief. At this moment, Ningji's aura had undergone an earth-shaking change, and his severed arm had already regrown. "David, I haven't avenged myself yet. How could I die? If I die, you'll die before me," Ningji said arrogantly. At this point, Ningji no longer had David in his eyes. In his view, David wasn't even qualified to fight him. "You're so confident. I don't know if your confidence comes from the evil energy in your body," David said with a faint smile. In his view, Ningji was delivering resources to him. The evil energy in his body would definitely make his Tao patterns even more powerful. "Enough nonsense. I'll let you know where my confidence comes from in a moment." After Ningji finished speaking, his complexion turned gloomy, and the aura around him began to slowly rise. At that moment, several more flashes of light appeared, and six purple-robed emissaries materialized. Looking at the six purple-robed emissaries, David frowned directly. He hadn't expected six purple-robed emissaries to arrive all at once. If there were only 1 or 2 purple-robed emissaries, David wouldn't fear them. But 6 purple-robed emissaries appearing suddenly put David in a very passive position. Seeing this, Sonia and Xiao Ru hurriedly assumed defensive stances. No matter what, they couldn't ignore David's peril. Ningji, do you know you're no match for me because you've been defeated before, so you specifically called for helpers, intending to overwhelm us with numbers? David said to Ningji with a mocking expression. Ningji looked at David's mocking face, then at the 6 purple-robed emissaries, and was already seething with anger inside. Later, when I make a move, none of you 6 are allowed to intervene, do you hear me? Ningji commanded the 6 purple-robed emissaries in an orderly tone. At this moment, Ningji's arrogance had swollen to the extreme. He didn't even regard the purple-robed emissaries, because he knew that as a flame demon physique, he was esteemed by the Great One. Hearing Ningji's words, the 6 purple-robed emissaries were all furious, but they also knew Ningji's importance in the spirit energy recovery formation, so they could only swallow their anger, none daring to speak. Seeing the 6 purple-robed emissaries furious but not daring to speak out, Ningji almost lost his mind. David, today I'm going to show you how powerful I am. After Ningji finished speaking, his body flickered, shrouded in black energy, and he closed in on David in the blink of an eye. A pitch-black demonic claw shot out, the icy cold and evil aura instantly transformed into sharp blades, grabbing directly at David's chest. Ningji avoided David's heart position because he couldn't kill David. Ningji's speed was so fast that David seemed to have no time to react before Ningji was already upon him. Kneel before me. Ningji shouted powerfully. This claw contained Ningji's endless humiliation and hatred. He had suffered inhuman torture just for this day. The cold wind was bitter, and Ningji's eyes were blood red. You want to hurt me with this little skill? You're simply overestimating yourself. David looked at Ningji, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, his face full of disdain. Just as Ningji's claw reached David's chest, David's body suddenly erupted with dazzling golden light. The impervious golden body was activated, covering David's entire body with golden scales. Clang! Amidst the exclamations of Sonia and the others, Ningji's claw struck David's chest. Chapter 24:39. David. Brother David. Seeing this, Sonia, Wu Meyer, and Xiaoru all erupted with spiritual energy, ready to charge toward Ningji. But soon, they halted, staring dumbfounded at David. Ningji's claw didn't splatter blood, nor were there any severed organs or intestines. A sneer was on David's face as he looked at Ningji with disdain. Ningji's smile froze on his face, filled with disbelief. He had almost exerted his full strength with that claw just now, and David hadn't dodged at all, yet he couldn't injure David. Now David stood motionless, yet Ningji couldn't hurt him in the slightest. This. How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. Ningji looked at David, his eyes full of unwillingness. To defeat David, he had endured inhuman experiences. Now that he had succeeded, he thought he could easily crush David and exact revenge. But it turned out he still wasn't David's opponent. Not only was he no match, he didn't even have the ability to injure David. This psychological gap stunned Ningji. Not only Ningji, but the 6 purple-robed emissaries on the side also frowned. They hadn't expected David's strength to grow so rapidly. Do you think that as long as you cultivate, you make progress? Let me tell you, you will never surpass me. David sneered, then kicked Ningji away with a flying kick. Ningji's body flew out like a kite with a broken string, falling heavily to the ground. Pfft! Ningji spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground, half was from injury, half from anger. Why? Why exactly? Ningji raised his head and sighed deeply. He felt heaven was unfair to him. He cultivated so diligently, even throwing himself into purgatory and enduring inhuman torture. Yet in the end, it amounted to nothing. This kind of blow was hard for Ningji to bear. Looking at the dumbfounded Ningji, David knew that after this blow, Ningji was completely useless. He smiled coldly and said, rather than letting you live in pain like this, it's better to give you a clean end. After David finished, he suddenly waved his palm toward Ningji. He wanted to kill Ningji because this kid was too scheming. As long as he lived, David would have no peace. But just as David was about to strike Ningji, a figure suddenly flashed out, directly shielding Ningji and fiercely slapping David. Bang! After a loud noise, the purple-robed emissary retreated 3 steps in succession, while David merely shook. The purple-robed emissary was full of surprise, while the other purple-robed emissaries hurried forward, surrounding David when they saw this. What? Planning to overwhelm us with numbers? David glanced at the 6 purple-robed emissaries and asked coldly. David, we won't kill you, but you'd better stay here obediently and don't go anywhere. If you don't listen, then don't blame us for being rude. A purple-robed emissary stepped before David and said. David found the voice somewhat familiar and suddenly remembered it was Yu Qian's voice. David hadn't expected that Yu Qian, who held the most authority in the 8 secret realms, was also a purple-robed emissary. You still need me for the activation of your spirit energy recovery formation, so you don't dare to kill me at all. Since you don't dare to kill me, then I won't listen to you. What can you do? I'm going to leave. David walked straight toward the Daoist sect secret realms exit. Seeing this, Yu Qian's face flushed with anger. He could only yell, "Stop him! You can't kill him, but that doesn't mean you can't cripple him. Cripple him and see how rampant he can be." After speaking, all the purple-robed emissaries charged at David. Chapter 24:40. Facing the 6 purple-robed emissaries, David had long since lost his inner confidence. But just as David was pondering how to deal with them, suddenly, a loud shout came from behind. Ningji stood up and said angrily, "All of you, stop! David is to be left to me. I'm going to turn him into a human stick." The 6 purple-robed emissaries looked back and saw that Ningji's entire body was exuding evil energy, and he seemed to have grown larger. Immediately after, wisps of black mist condensed behind Ningji, instantly transforming into a tall, mighty hellish evil god. They saw this evil god holding a double-edged sword, eyes wide open, face full of ferocity. Seeing this scene, the 6 purple-robed emissaries were all startled and hurriedly stopped, making way for Ningji. Ningji walked toward David, and with each step he took, the hellish evil god behind him also stepped forward, radiating endless pressure toward David. David, don't forget, I am a flame demon body, I have a physique different from ordinary people. Ningji glared at David. As Ningji drew closer to David, the hellish evil god behind him grew taller and taller. David, go to hell! Ningji roared angrily. The hellish evil god also let out a roar, and as the 2 blades in its hands clashed, infinite power erupted. But just as the hellish evil god launched its attack on David, the sky suddenly darkened, and then a gigantic hand descended from the heavens, instantly swatting the hellish evil god away, dispersing it. Are you ignoring my words? From the sky, that mighty voice came slowly. Hearing the voice of the Great One, Ningji trembled in fright. He had truly been furious just now and wanted to kill David. If David were really killed, it would be a catastrophe. Great One, this subordinate knows his mistake. Please spare me this once. Ningji hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy. You are no match for that David at all. That guy's strength far surpasses yours. You need to continue cultivating. Now you must set aside distracting thoughts of revenge and focus on cultivation. The Great One said to Ningji. Great One, this David killed my father and has always bullied me. I cultivated desperately just to defeat him and avenge my father. Now you're telling me I'm not his match. Ningji said loudly. From Ningji's perspective, he couldn't defeat David because he hadn't activated his flame demon body, otherwise, David would be no match for him at all. The Great One's voice didn't come again, but the gigantic palm from earlier slowly vanished, and the dispersed hellish evil god returned behind Ningji. Ningji seemed to understand the Great One's meaning. He hurriedly stood up and looked at David, his eyes narrowed slightly, full of murderous intent. David, today I'll let you taste what it means to wish for death rather than life. After speaking, Ningji's figure flickered, and then his body merged with the hellish evil god. The gigantic hellish evil god came at David, swinging its double blades. Seeing this, David flipped his right hand, and the dragon-slaying sword appeared in his grip. He blocked obliquely forward, intercepting the hellish evil god's dual blades. But at that moment, David felt the dragon-slaying sword in his hand shaking abnormally again, this time very violently. David tried to control the dragon-slaying sword, but to no avail. Even the sword spirit, David couldn't achieve unity of mind. No matter how much dragon power David injected into the dragon-slaying sword, he couldn't control it. With a series of subtle sounds, David discovered a small crack in the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. Chapter 24:41. This time, David was taken aback. You must know that this dragon-slaying sword had fought alongside him through thick and thin, and such a situation had never occurred before. He hadn't expected a spiritual weapon like the dragon-slaying sword to develop a crack. Shocked, David quickly withdrew the dragon-slaying sword, afraid it would shatter if he continued using it. But as David retracted the dragon-slaying sword, there was nothing to block the hell god's dual blades. In the end, they struck his body fiercely. Boom! David's body was instantly flung into the air, tumbled several times, and then fell heavily to the ground. However, David's physical body was strong, and with the protection of his impervious golden body, he wasn't harmed. David! Brother David! Sonia and the others hurried over, concerned, and helped David up. Seeing the worried faces of the few, David smiled lightly and said, "I'm fine. This little strength can't hurt me." Seeing that David was indeed unharmed, Sonia and the others felt relieved. "Haha, David, now you should know how powerful my flame demon body is, right?" Ningji's voice came from the mouth of the hellish evil god. It could be heard that Ningji was very excited now, he could finally defeat David. The depression and shock from earlier had long since been swept away. David looked at the smug Ningji and curled his lips. "Even if you activate your special physique, you still won't be my opponent." After David finished speaking, he took out the God King's bow. The dragon-slaying sword couldn't be used for now, so David could only rely on the God King's bow. The moment the God King's bow was taken out, the eyes of the 6 purple-robed emissaries were all drawn to it. David drew the bowstring, auras swarmed from hundreds of meters away. These auras condensed into an arrow on the bowstring, its rolling, horrifying aura ready to be unleashed. Ningji looked at the God King's bow in David's hand, somewhat dazed. He could already feel the dangerous aura emanating from it. This dangerous aura precisely countered and suppressed the evil energy in Ningji's body. Watching David draw the bowstring, an arrow already aimed at him, Ningji began to panic a little. Swish! David released the bowstring. The arrow was like a meteor, trailing long white flames, heading straight for Ningji. Seeing this, Ningji's dual blades touched, and shields instantly appeared before him. In the blink of an eye, over a dozen shields shrouded in black mist tightly enveloped Ningji. The arrow shot by David struck the shield before Ningji's body at an extremely fast speed. Without the slightest pause, the arrow pierced through the shield instantly. Before this arrow, Ningji's condensed shields were as fragile as thin paper. The arrow pierced through more than a dozen shields and instantly shot into the body of the hellish evil god. For a moment, the scene fell silent, the hellish evil god's ferocious face wore an expression of pain. Boom! Accompanied by an explosion, the hellish evil god instantly vanished without a trace. But Ningji, who had merged with the hellish evil god, separated at the last moment. Even so, Ningji was injured, spitting out blood. At this moment, Ningji's complexion was worse than if he had eaten shit. He thought that by activating his flame demon body, he could defeat David. But he hadn't expected to be utterly thrashed by David. This was a blow to Ningji's self-confidence. "Do you believe my words now?" At that moment, the voice of the Great One sounded again. Ningji bowed his head, remaining silent. There was indeed a gap between his strength and David's. Soon, a ray of light flashed, and Ningji's figure instantly vanished from the spot. The Great One's voice continued, "All of you, keep this David here. Don't let him leave the secret realm." The Great One ordered the 6 purple-robed emissaries to detain David, preventing him from leaving the Daoist sect's secret realm. Chapter 2442. 6 purple-robed emissaries surrounded David. Facing them, David slightly frowned and said, "As cultivators from the 8 great secret realms, you are willing to become the lackeys of a demon cultivator. Aren't you ashamed?" David addressed the 6 purple-robed emissaries. "David, say no more. Stay here obediently and don't go anywhere, and I can ensure your safety. We only want the spirit energy recovery formation to activate, we don't want to harm anyone. The spiritual energy in the secret realms may be abundant, but there are still limits. As time passes, the 8 secret realms may collapse at any moment. What will we do then?" Yu Qian stepped forward and said to David, "I want to leave, and you can't stop me at all, unless you kill me." David said coldly. "Don't force us to act against you." Yu Qian's face turned gloomy. "Then let's fight. I must leave here." After David finished speaking, bursts of aura began erupting from his body. Seeing this, Yu Qian waved his hands and said, "Do it. Don't let him leave." Having witnessed David's strength earlier, the 6 purple-robed emissaries acted together. They saw several rays of light emanate from the hands of the 6 purple-robed emissaries. After converging in the air, they formed a powerful beam of light, shining toward David. Facing the immense beam of light, David wasn't panicked at all because he knew these purple-robed emissaries wouldn't kill him, they only wanted to trap him. The huge beam of light shone on David, instantly forming a transparent barrier around him, directly encasing David inside. "With this kind of formation, you think you can trap me?" David was full of disdain and suddenly clenched his fists. "Holy Light Fist!" David shouted loudly. The spiritual power in his dantian began to surge, and bursts of light flickered on his right fist. But just as David was about to punch the barrier before him, he found the light above his fist instantly dissipated, and the spiritual power in his dantian couldn't be mobilized anymore. It was as if a powerful suppressive force was suppressing the spiritual power in his body, preventing David from exerting his strength to break the barrier and escape. How could this happen? David didn't believe it and tried to burst out the spiritual power in his body again, but there was still no movement. Even the dragon power within the dragon crystal couldn't be used. Seeing David like that, Yu Qian smiled. "David, don't waste your effort. No one can break the immortal trapping formation that we jointly set up. Within the immortal trapping formation, you can't use your spiritual power at all. Stay here obediently. Once the spirit energy recovery array activates and the spirit energy of the entire secular world recovers, we can plead with the Great One to spare your life. You have extraordinary talent, you're truly a genius in cultivation. I hope you can understand the situation." Yu Qian tried to persuade David, but David didn't say a word. At that moment, David quietly mobilized the power of the Tao patterns within his body and discovered that although his spiritual power and dragon power were suppressed by the immortal trapping formation, the power of the Tao patterns was completely unaffected. It seemed this immortal trapping formation targeted the spiritual power used by cultivators or dragon power, but the power of the Tao patterns wasn't possessed by cultivators at all. This power of the Tao patterns was the power of the demon race, and the immortal trapping formation couldn't suppress it at all. Finding the power of the Tao patterns unaffected, David was relieved, but he was still furious, glaring at Yu Qian. "You're not worthy of being cultivators at all. I will never join you. Whether you join us, do you think you have a choice now?" Yu Qian snorted coldly, then left with the other purple-robed emissaries in a flash. They were very confident, certain that David couldn't escape the trap. Chapter 2443. Inside the Demon Heart Sect. Ningji knelt before the Great One, his face ashen. This blow left Ningji devoid of his former vigor, his entire person seemed demented. His initial ambition had long since vanished. He thought that after undergoing hellish training in the abyss of hell and emerging, he would be invincible in the world and could easily defeat David. But the reality was the opposite. He was thrashed by David, powerless to fight back. Ningji lowered his head, awaiting the Great One's punishment. The Great One looked at Ningji's dejected appearance, his expression cold as ice. "Great One, now that Ningji has been tempered in the abyss of hell yet still isn't David's match, what should we do?" If David isn't dealt with before the spirit energy recovery array activates, he will definitely cause trouble. The demon envoy whispered to the Great One. It seems I overestimated the power of the flame demon body, but matters have reached this point. I can only find a way to quickly improve Ningxi's cultivation. The Great One said slowly. Great One, even if we expend all the demon heart sect's resources, Ningxi probably won't be able to refine them in such a short time. The demon envoy said. If resources can't be refined, then we'll give him ready-made strength, let him absorb others' power to improve. The Great One turned to look at the demon envoy. This time, the demon envoy was startled and knelt before the Great One with a thud, fearing he would become the one absorbed by Ningxi. Seeing the demon envoy's fear, the Great One continued, "Don't be afraid. I still don't fancy your strength. I have a task for you right now." The Great One waved his hand, then whispered a few words in the demon envoy's ear. After listening, the demon envoy nodded, turned, and left quickly. The Great One glanced at Ningxi, waved his hand, and said, "You may leave as well. Don't go looking for that David again without my permission." Ningxi didn't speak but slowly rose and turned to leave. Watching Ningxi's back, the Great One was furious. If Ningxi weren't a flame demon body, he would have slapped him to death long ago. Not long after Ningxi left, Yu Qian and the other 6 purple-robed emissaries returned. "Didn't I order you to trap David? Why have you returned?" the Great One asked. "Great One, we have trapped David with the immortal trapping formation, he cannot escape." Yu Qian stepped forward and said, "Now that David is trapped, I hope the Great One will allow us to return to our secret realms to see our families. After all, we left in a hurry without saying goodbye. I have already sent someone to fetch your families. You will be reunited in less than 2 days, just wait at ease. As long as the spirit energy revives, the secular world is vast enough for you to roam freely. There will be no more secret realms then," the Great One said to the several purple-robed emissaries. Hearing this, the purple-robed emissaries hurriedly thanked him. They hadn't expected the Great One to send someone to retrieve their families. After the purple-robed emissaries left, the Great One waved his palm lightly, and a black hole instantly appeared in midair. After the black hole rippled for a while, 4 masked individuals emerged from within. The 4 were also carrying a coffin. The vermilion coffin appeared very thick. Many complex runes were carved around the coffin, and several yellow talismans were pasted on it. It seemed some monster was sealed inside. The 4 masked men placed the coffin before the Great One, then one of them took out a token and handed it to the Great One. The Great One took the token, infused a breath into it, and bursts of red light flashed on the token. Accompanied by the flashing red light, the coffin actually began to tremble, emitting an extremely terrifying aura. The 4 masked men merely glanced at it, then turned and walked back into the black hole. But the Great One looked at the token in his hand and the coffin before him, growing very excited. Chapter 2444. Daoist Sect Secret Realm. Seeing David trapped, Sonia and Xiao Ru were extremely anxious. But no matter what methods they tried, they couldn't break open the immortal trapping formation. "No need to waste your energy, you can't open this immortal trapping formation," David said to Sonia. "No, I must rescue you. I can't just sit by and watch you trapped here." Sonia swung her fist, punching the immortal trapping formation. But with Sonia's strength, she couldn't shake the immortal trapping formation at all. "I can escape on my own, this immortal trapping formation can't hold me at all." After David finished speaking, the power of the Tao patterns on his body gathered on his fist. Boom! David punched out, and the immortal trapping formation instantly shattered. Seeing David break out of the formation so easily, Sonia and Xiao Ru were somewhat dumbfounded. After a moment, Xiao Ru said, "Brother David, you're so bad. You made us so anxious when you could break out of the formation yourself." Sonia also glared at David, pouting a little angrily. Seeing this, David could only hurry forward to coax Sonia. "Alright, get out of here quickly, or you won't be able to leave when those people return." Sonia pushed David, urging him to leave immediately. Don't worry, I'll be able to take you out very soon. David said to Sonia. I believe you. Now go. Under Sonia's urging, David left the Daoist sect's secret realm. After returning to Longmen, David thought of his dragon-slaying sword and felt a pang in his heart. Taking out the dragon-slaying sword, David examined it repeatedly. Looking at the cracks on the sword, David felt very uncomfortable. This dragon-slaying sword had fought alongside him through countless battles. They had already become one, man and sword. Now that the dragon-slaying sword was damaged, David was deeply saddened. Is there any way to restore this dragon-slaying sword? David wondered if there was a method to restore the dragon-slaying sword in his hand. But after thinking it over, David couldn't come up with a way. So David sought out Humatsi. Humatsi had seen and experienced much, perhaps he would know a way. When Humatsi heard David's meaning, he also felt very troubled. David, the dragon-slaying sword in your hand is clearly a spiritual sword, and it possesses spiritual intelligence. I'm afraid it will be difficult for ordinary craftsmen to restore your dragon-slaying sword. Humatsi looked at the dragon-slaying sword in David's hand and said, Is there no way? Master who is well informed, surely you know some master craftsmen. David began to flatter Humatsi. Humatsi was flattered by David and felt a bit pleased. Master artifact refiners, of course I know some. Hundreds of years ago, there was a sect exceptionally skilled in weapon refinement, but then for unknown reasons, this sect vanished. A few years ago, I once met an old monk who traveled the world. Only during our chat did I learn that he turned out to be a craftsman and also a disciple of that sect that had disappeared for hundreds of years. I thought he was bragging at the time. But after I saw him forge an extremely sharp dagger from a piece of scrap iron with my own eyes, I somewhat believed him. Humatsi said. Then where is the old monk you mentioned? Let's go find him now. David hurriedly asked upon hearing this. It's been so many years, I don't know where he is. But he once said his monasticism was at Lingyin Temple. Humatsi said. Alright, let's go to Lingyin Temple tomorrow. David decided to seek out the master craftsman Humatsi mentioned. It would be great if he could repair the dragon-slaying sword. Without the dragon-slaying sword, David always felt like something was missing. Chapter 24:45. The next day, David and Humatsi headed straight for Lingyin Temple. Lingyin Temple is only a few hundred kilometers from Kyoto. At David's and the others' speed, it took only a few hours to arrive. In the past, Lingyin Temple was also very prosperous with incense, and there was an endless stream of worshippers and devotees daily. But now it had become very desolate. David and Humatsi went up the mountain and saw no one along the way. Upon reaching Lingyin Temple, they found it already dilapidated and covered in dust, as if no one lived there. Seeing Lingyin Temple like this, David's heart instantly sank. When the two walked into Lingyin Temple, what they saw was desolation and overgrown weeds. Where was there a monk? It seems the master craftsman I met is no longer here. Looking at Lingyin Temple's condition, Humatsi knew no one had lived there for a long time. David sighed, let's go. Just as David and Humatsi turned to leave, a sudden aura approached, followed by a figure blocking their path. David looked closely and found the person blocking their way was an old monk wearing tattered robes, his face covered in dirt. You too, since you've come to Lingyin Temple, why not offer incense and donations before leaving? The old monk said to David and Humatsi. Humatsi sized up the old monk, then hurriedly said, Master, do you remember me? We met once a few years ago. The old monk looked at Humatsi, then shook his head. This old monk travels the world, I've seen countless people. How could I remember them all? Master, whether you remember or not doesn't matter. We came to ask for your help. Humatsi wasn't angry that the old monk didn't remember him. Asking for my help? The old monk was taken aback. Look at me like this, what can I possibly help you with? Master, I know you are a master craftsman. My friend has a damaged sword and would like to ask the master to repair it. Humatsi said directly. So that's it. The old monk raised his head slightly, just repairing a sword, I can do it. But what's in it for me? Master, as long as you can help me repair the sword, I'll do anything you ask. Even rebuilding Lingyin Temple is no problem. David said hastily upon hearing this. Quite the boast. But this Lingyin Temple isn't mine, why would he rebuild it? The old monk shook his head. If I repair the sword for you, you need to help me save someone. Save who? David and Humatsi asked simultaneously. Who you save is not your concern, but this person is imprisoned in the fire sect's dungeon. Promise to help me rescue them, and not only will I repair a sword for you, I'll even forge one for you. The old monk said. Fire sect? David and Humatsi were stunned. They had never heard of such a sect. Master, where is this fire sect you mentioned? I've never heard of it. David knew everything about the secular world, the hidden world, and the secret realms, yet he had never heard of this fire sect. You don't even know the fire sect? It's on the mountainside of Qingyo Peak. How could you not have heard of such a major sect? The old monk looked at David with surprise on his face. This time, David and Humatsi were even more confused. They didn't know where Qingyo Peak was. Master, you, said this Qingyo Peak, we've never heard of it. David looked helpless. You guys, how have you never heard of Qingyo Peak? This Qingyo Peak. The old monk was about to reprimand David and Humatsi. But he was suddenly taken aback, as if remembering something. Then tears flowed out, and he burst into tears. The old monk's actions completely bewildered David and Humatsi. Chapter 24:46. Master, what's wrong with you? David asked cautiously. But the old monk completely ignored David, continuing to cry on his own, which left David somewhat speechless. After watching the old monk cry for over 10 minutes, David and Humatsi finally saw him stop. Master, you... David was about to ask when the old monk spoke. The fire sect I mentioned is in the celestial realm, that's why you haven't heard of it. In the blink of an eye, I've been away from the celestial realm for over 10 years. The old monk said with a sorrowful face. David and Humatsi were stunned by the old monk's words. Master, are you from the celestial realm? David was full of disbelief. He hadn't expected someone from the celestial realm to be in the secular world. The old monk nodded. For so many years, I always thought I was still living in the celestial realm, but I didn't realize I'd left it many years ago. Master, aren't you from the celestial realm? Aren't you suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth? David was very surprised. Was this old monk like himself, unafraid of the suppression of heavenly laws? How could I not be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth? But to survive, I had no choice. Now over 10 years have passed, and under the suppression of the laws, my strength has regressed greatly. But my refining techniques haven't been suppressed, so repairing weapons is easy. The old monk said lightly. Master, what happened? Why did you come from the celestial realm to the secular world despite being suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth? David was very curious. Why had this old monk left the celestial realm? You must know, in the eyes of secular cultivators, the celestial realm is heaven, a dreamland. Sigh, it's a long story. The old monk sighed, then continued. David and Humatsi listened quietly, finally understanding the situation. The old monk wasn't originally a monk but a master craftsman of the artifact refining sect, named Iron Hammer. Because the artifact refining sect was most famous for creating magical weapons, it was targeted by the fire sect. The fire sect demanded the artifact refining sect forge weapons for them, but since the fire sect consisted of evil cultivators, the artifact refining sect refused and was subsequently exterminated, with the sect master captured. Master Ironhammer fled with the artifact refining secrets of the artifact refining sect and was pursued by members of the fire sect. In desperation, Master Ironhammer could only tear through space-time, fleeing to the secular world. He would rather be suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth than be caught by the fire sect. And the fire sect members feared the laws of heaven and earth, so they didn't pursue him, allowing Master Ironhammer to escape. However, Master Ironhammer could only wander the secular world, later becoming a monk at Lingyin Temple. Eventually, as Lingyin Temple fell into disrepair, he led a nomadic life. But he never gave up on rescuing his sect master, which is why when David and the others sought Master Hammer, the condition he proposed was to save that person. After listening to Master Iron Hammer's account, David now realized that the celestial realm wasn't a paradise at all, it was filled with intrigue and conflict everywhere. From this perspective, Master Hammer was also quite pitiful, wandering the secular world alone for so many years. After David and Humatsi listened, they remained silent for a long time. Master Iron Hammer also fell into sorrow. After a while, he let out a long breath, then forced a smile and said, "Look at you two listening so intently, I don't want any conditions now. With your abilities, there's no way to save anyone from the fire sect. Whatever weapon you want repaired, just take it out. I'll repair it for you, and then you must leave this place." Chapter 24:47. Master Iron Hammer, there's a crack in my sword. Please take a look and see if it can be repaired. After David finished speaking, he reached out with his right hand, and the dragon-slaying sword appeared in his hand. The moment the dragon-slaying sword appeared, Master Hammer was stunned, his eyes wide open as he stared at the sword in David's hand. "The dragon-slaying sword?" Master Iron Hammer said after looking at it for a moment. "Master, how do you know this is the dragon-slaying sword?" David was very surprised. This dragon-slaying sword was originally a spiritual sword forged by our artifact refining sect. Back then, our sect master relied on this dragon-slaying sword to slay 3 demon kings. Then it disappeared. I never expected the dragon-slaying sword to fall into the secular world and end up in your hands. But you followed the dragon-slaying sword, becoming one with the sword, which means you and this dragon-slaying sword are truly fated. Master Hammer said. Hearing this, David hadn't expected that the dragon-slaying sword, which had fought alongside him through thick and thin, was actually a spiritual sword forged by the artifact refining sect. Being able to forge a spiritual sword like the dragon-slaying sword shows the artifact refining sect's strength was not to be underestimated. Master, then please take a look. For some reason, this dragon-slaying sword has started to crack and seems to be in conflict with me. David handed the dragon-slaying sword to Master Iron Hammer. Normally, that shouldn't happen. Even if the dragon-slaying sword's sword spirit is damaged, the blade itself is extremely hard and shouldn't develop cracks. Master Iron Hammer took the dragon-slaying sword and examined it carefully. Soon, Master Hammer discovered the crux of the problem. The sword spirit of the dragon-slaying sword has improved a lot in your hands, but as your strength continues to increase, the sword spirit hasn't strengthened accordingly. So when you use the dragon-slaying sword, it struggles to bear the aura you emit. Besides, the dragon-slaying sword can no longer fully showcase your strength now. You need to upgrade the dragon-slaying sword again. Master Iron Hammer said to David. Hearing this, David immediately understood. He had been focusing on his own strength growth but had neglected the dragon-slaying sword and its sword spirit. His strength exploded so suddenly that when he injected dragon power into the dragon-slaying sword, the sword could hardly bear it, which was why it trembled and hummed. Master, is there any way you can help me restore the dragon-slaying sword? Or upgrade it? David hurriedly asked Master Hammer. Master Iron Hammer shook his head. If it were an ordinary weapon, I could repair it for you. But with my current strength, there's no way to repair or upgrade this dragon-slaying sword. When David heard this, he was immediately disheartened. So we just watched the dragon-slaying sword become useless junk? Master Iron Hammer, since this dragon-slaying sword was forged by your artifact refining sect, why can't you restore it? Humatsi asked, puzzled. Spiritual swords like the dragon-slaying sword can't be repaired or upgraded by a refiner alone. You don't know artifact refining, so you don't understand the process. Do you think a spiritual sword can be created just by forging? Do you know how the sword spirit within a spiritual sword is formed? Master Hammer said. How is it formed? David and Humatsi asked in unison. Both were very curious. After all, they knew nothing about refining, and there were very few master refiners in the secular world or the secret realms. The magical weapons some people used were obtained by exploring ruins or treasure hunting, not forged by anyone. So no one had considered how these weapons were forged or how the sword spirit within a spiritual sword came into being. Chapter 24:48. In our artifact refining sect, there is a sacred lake called the Sword Cleansing Pond. Forged swords must pass through the Sword Cleansing Pond, nourished by the spiritual energy in the pool, and slowly develop sword spirits within it. However, not all swords can produce sword spirits. Some swords, after being forged, will be damaged if placed in the Sword Cleansing Pond. Those are useless swords. If you want to repair or upgrade your dragon-slaying sword, you need to soak it in the Sword Cleansing Pond and apply my refining techniques. Master Hammer said. Then let's go to the Sword Cleansing Pond and repair my dragon-slaying sword. David asked. Master Iron Hammer looked at David as if he were a fool. This is the secular world, and the Sword Cleansing Pond is in the celestial realm. How do we get there? I've been here for so many years, my strength has already been greatly suppressed. I can't tear through space-time, and the passage from the secular world to the celestial realm has been closed. Going to the celestial realm would be very difficult. Humatsi also said. David fell silent. After a moment of thought, he said to Master Iron Hammer, Master, if I can open a passage from the secular world to the celestial realm, can you take us to the Sword Cleansing Pond? You can open a passage from the secular world to the celestial realm? Master Hammer looked at David in disbelief. Don't joke. Although your strength isn't weak, opening a passage from the secular world to the celestial realm is impossible. Master Iron Hammer didn't believe David at all. Master Hammer, you just said that if I opened the passage, could you take us there? David asked seriously. Of course. After so many years, I want to go back and take a look. If I can truly return to the celestial realm, I'll never leave again. Even if I'm caught by the fire sect, I won't leave. Master Hammer nodded and said. David, can you really open a passage to the celestial realm? Don't joke. If your strength isn't sufficient and you try to force open a passage to the celestial realm, you might suffer backlash. Humatsi warned David. Let me try, it should work. After David finished speaking, he took out the God King's bow. The moment the God King's bow appeared, Master Hammer was dumbfounded. This is the God King's bow, the most precious weapon in the celestial realm. Why is it in your hands? I heard the God King's bow was sealed in the Valley of Death, and many who tried to obtain it failed. Why is this God King's bow in your hands? What's going on? Who are you? Seeing the God King's bow, Master Hammer was momentarily stupefied. It seemed utterly unscientific for such a treasured weapon from the celestial realm to appear in the secular world. I also obtained it by accident. David didn't know how to explain it. He saw David gripping the bowstring, then all the power of the Tao patterns within his body erupted. The God King's bow was drawn, and the lights of heaven and earth began converging toward it. The God King's bow emitted a tremendous suction force, as if absorbing all surrounding power. The rays of light condensed and soon transformed into a dazzling arrow. The bright golden light illuminated the entire sky brilliantly. Soon, the arrow's golden light grew weaker and gradually turned into a transparent, crystalline jade form. The aura emanating from the arrow filled Humatsi and Master Hammer's eyes with horror. They had never felt such a terrifying aura before. David gritted his teeth, firmly gripping the bowstring. Cold sweat kept falling from his forehead. Both of David's legs began to tremble, but he didn't release the bowstring, persisting because he didn't know whether his arrow could open a passage to the celestial realm, so he had to exert his utmost effort. Chapter 24:49. Seeing David like that, Humatsi and Master Hammer also grew nervous. Ah! David let out a roar, the deafening sound shaking Humatsi and Master Hammer until their eardrums ached. Whoosh! David released the bowstring, and the transparent arrow shot into the sky instantly. The swift arrow tore through the air, emitting a sharp, piercing sound. David collapsed and sat on the ground, panting heavily. David, are you all right? Humatsi hurried forward to help David up. David shook his head, I'm fine. After speaking, David stared fixedly at the arrow, his heart full of tension. As the arrow flew higher and higher, an explosion suddenly occurred. The violent blast could be heard clearly even hundreds of miles away. And with the explosion, the void twisted and trembled, slowly forming a black hole. Initially, the black hole was very small, and the energy around it was very weak. Slowly, the black hole grew larger and larger, and turbulent eddies were clearly visible within. The immense power in the black hole began sucking David and the others toward it. "We've opened it. I can't believe we opened it." Master Hammer looked at the black hole before him in disbelief. Tears welled in Master Hammer's eyes. Trapped in the secular world for over 10 years, he never expected to have a chance to return to the celestial realm. "Master Hammer, let's go. I don't know how long this passage will last," David said to Master Hammer. Master Hammer nodded, then followed by David and the others, leaped up, and were sucked into the black hole. David and the others only felt their bodies tumbling in the turbulent current before everything went dark, and they knew nothing more. When they awoke, they found themselves in a vast mountain range with dense forests and towering ancient trees. "Where are we? Have we reached the celestial realm?" Humatsi looked blankly at the surrounding towering trees and asked. David also looked dazed. Although he had been to the celestial realm, he had only gone to Death Valley to kill the undead and had never been elsewhere. Now they could only rely on Master Hammer. After all, Master Hammer was from the celestial realm and should know something about it. Master Hammer broke a few branches from a tree, stuck them in the ground, then drew several strange symbols with his hands. The shadows of the branches began to move slowly. After observing carefully for a while, Master Iron Hammer frowned and said, "Damn it, how did we get teleported to the demon race's territory? We need to leave quickly." After speaking, Master Iron Hammer hurriedly used his feet to destroy the symbols he had drawn, then left with David and Humatsi. "Master Iron Hammer, what is the demon race's territory? Could there be demons in this mountain forest?" David asked, puzzled. "The celestial realm is different from the secular world. The celestial realm is divided into 3 major races: humans, demons, and the demon race. Each race has its own living territory. Although conflicts arise between the races from time to time, they don't go to war. There are agreements between them, so for many years, the celestial realm has remained peaceful. But I haven't been back for over 10 years, I don't know if there have been any changes in the celestial realm. Our current location belongs to the demon race's territory. It's better to leave as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary trouble." While explaining the celestial realm to David, Master Hammer quickly walked out of the forest. The 3 walked for an unknown length of time and finally emerged from the vast jungle, arriving at the foot of a mountain. "Master Hammer, how far are we from Qingyo Peak, which you mentioned?" David asked Master Hammer. "Not far, only about 30,000 miles. Master Hammer said. Hearing this, David and Humatsi nearly fainted. 30,000 miles? Not far. Chapter 2450. Master Hammer, how big is the celestial realm? David asked. "I don't know exactly how big, but it must be hundreds of times larger than your secular world," Master Hammer said. "Hundreds of times?" David and Humatsi were shocked again. They never expected the celestial realm to be so vast. If they rushed, even if their strength allowed them to fly against the wind, they would still waste a lot of time on the road. Master Ironhammer seemed to sense their doubts and said, "In the celestial realm, many people know teleportation formations, so they don't rely solely on walking. There are many masters in the celestial realm, these people don't even need teleportation formations, a single thought can traverse thousands of miles in an instant. Yes, people in the celestial realm are practically immortals." "What is this distance?" Humatsi said. In Humatsi's eyes, the celestial realm was the world of immortals, and the people there were all immortals. Hearing Humatsi's words, Master Ironhammer smiled and said, "People in the celestial realm are no different from those in your secular world. Not everyone in the celestial realm is a master, the celestial realm is just another spacetime, another world. There are no immortals in the celestial realm. A true immortal is someone who can travel across spacetime and reach any planar world at will. Don't think so highly of the celestial realm." Master Hammer's words left David somewhat confused. After all, many secret realm cultivators strive to break through the void to reach the celestial realm. Yet, in Master Hammer's words, the celestial realm is just an ordinary world, no different from the secular one. David clearly didn't believe this. In his perception, the celestial realm should be different. After all, those demons were very powerful, and they all came from the celestial realm. Master Ironhammer didn't explain further but continued on the way with David and Humatsi. Just as the three were about to leave, they suddenly heard the roar of a monster. The three looked toward the sound and saw a monster rushing out of the forest. In front of the monster, a girl of only 17 or 18, her forehead covered in cold sweat and blood on her body, was desperately fleeing for her life. Judging by the aura the girl emitted, she was only at the nascent soul realm. Such strength wasn't even considered master level in the secular world. David didn't understand how there could be people with such low realm strength in a place like the celestial realm. The monster behind the girl was clearly stronger and much faster, it was about to catch up to her. The girl looked panicked. Seeing David and the others, she was taken aback for a moment, then shouted, "Help, help." The girl changed direction and ran toward David and the others. Seeing this, David was about to rescue her but was stopped by Master Ironhammer. "Don't act hastily. In the celestial realm, it's best not to meddle in others' affairs. People in the celestial realm aren't as you imagine." David looked at Master Hammer in surprise, not understanding his meaning. But just as Master Hammer stopped him, the monster caught up to the girl. Roar! With a roar, the monster charged at the girl. Seeing that David and the others weren't coming to her aid, the girl could only grit her teeth, holding a scimitar that was already damaged, and slashed fiercely at the monster. The monster dodged to one side, evading the girl's attack, then fiercely swiped its large paw, sending the girl flying. Immediately after, the monster leaped forward and charged at the girl again. By now, the girl looked desperate and could only close her eyes helplessly, awaiting death. The monster's bloody maw had already reached the girl. Choked by the thick smell of blood, the girl began to vomit continuously.